anything there to kind of show what you're working on?
Oh my gosh, that is a requirement I was not prepared for. Um, no.
All
I'll
right.
show my dodo bird if they want to see it. That sounds like a euphemism, if you're asking me.
No, it's
I'll take you back to my place and I'll show you my
I
dodo.
wasn't sure if you were hiding something under that Mexican blanket. I have to
Um,
share.
it's
I have to share
actually
this to
it's the
groups.
cartel. Just I have the whole cartel underneath it.
It's just all the Julios you built over the years.
Yeah, I have them propped up, and
Yeah.
that's why I have back problems. So they couldn't possibly be because I do so many puppet shows.
Yeah.
All right, so you said we're gonna wait for people to join us on the stream.
Yeah. We've got 5 people on the stream right now. It's
Oh, I'm
someone just said, "Hey, it's that ventriloquist dude." Christine Barger said, "Hi guys." Hi Christine. Welcome.
that ventriloquist dude. Are you gonna introduce me once you have enough people? Like, what's the threshold that you're gonna introduce me?
Yeah, I don't think you're a household name, so I'll probably have to introduce you.
Yeah, of course, of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
They couldn't possibly know us both from the Jeff Dunham hit piece on Vice, where you look like my first dummy I ever had, which was
I did star in that.
Daniel Day.
The comments are harsh, but they're pretty accurate.
Well, I don't read the comments, especially if not that.
Well,
No,
I
they
do.
cut me so
And
far out of
what's great is
context.
it says posted 4 years ago, and I go back and I'm like trolling my old like comments, like, yeah, that kid does look like a puppet, and he's got an old man next to him. And then when they recite, I didn't know Landon had an old man inside him. Like Tosh has like the worst wording ever. All right, so hey, it's Christine here. Kimberly join us. Hi, Kimberly. All right, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Just waiting for some. We've got 10 people on. All right, hi, welcome to Landon Live. My name is Landon Harvey. I'm a ventriloquist and puppet builder, and today I have with me someone that does the same things, and assumingly a lot more than that. Please welcome Jeff Goltz, comedian. Hello, Jeff.
I thought you were gonna go by my official title.
Oh, sorry. Please let me welcome Jeff Goltz and Julio the cockroach.
No, no, no. You know my official title. You're trying to avoid saying it.
I'm afraid. Well, what's your official title?
Do you know who I am? No, I'm kidding.
Am I wait? Oh, sorry. The next Sammy King, Jeff Goltz. I'm missing something. I don't have. I have some things written down, but I've just been
the
crossing them off
ventriloquist
as
with
I've been.
sex appeal.
Huh?
Um,
Oh yeah, but we're on Facebook, so we have to censor some of the stuff.
oh, you didn't tell me that.
Yeah.
Should I put all the props
He's
away?
he's the ventriloquist that everyone loves.
That's not true.
No, it's not. But the other one wasn't true either. So as long as we're making up stuff.
Yeah, you'll get there someday, buddy.
So Jeff Goltz,
Yes.
is it true that you changed your last name so people could pronounce it better?
That's a great way to start this. Yeah, I changed it.
I'd
It's
start with an
Slovenian.
allegation. Yeah.
Yeah. First of all, did you or did you not?
Where are you the night of September 14th?
What year?
What do you mean?
19,
Yeah, okay.
1999, I was at a hospital, but it was about 2004, coast of Panama City Beach, Florida, just kicking it with the crew, just doing beer bongs as what was I, 6? It was great. Anyway, we're on Facebook. Keep forgetting. Now, I changed it because it's Slovenian and it's Golc. That's how it was originally written. And I changed it because everyone pronounced it wrong. And I was like, how am I going to get all these, comedians to pronounce my name right? And it's certainly not as the little ventriloquist boy coming up. Hey, actually, you pronounce it like this.
Yeah.
So I changed it. Even Dale Brown called me Jeff Goats one of the years at the junior open mic. And so I changed it. After this live stream, I'm starting to regret it. But yeah, I changed it.
No, it's great. That's a very bold choice. All right, so Jeff, can you describe yourself in one sentence as a performer or what it is you do? Huh?
Because
I don't know.
I gave you one word. Because.
Oh, because that's your okay.
Yeah, I think that's the definition of art. That's at least my definition of art, is because most art or any good art really doesn't have a purpose. Like it's
Yeah.
not keeping you, you're giving you any kind of sustenance to survive. It's not gonna save you from anything. Literally, it's just something because
This feels a lot like a Jim Carrey interview. All right. So what was the first art
Let
form
me
you
tell you about
explored?
philosophy, Landon. Nietzsche once said, all right, go ahead.
What was oh, thanks. What was the first art form you explored? Was it ventriloquism? Was it comedy? Was it singing? Was it theater? What was it?
Uh, I think it was the crafts. I started drawing, and then went from there. I think I originally, I mean, I went from drawing and making stuff to wanting to make puppets, but
Mm.
that led into theater. I think I probably picked up music and puppets at the same time, but I focused on puppets because I didn't have high school in mind of like what would
Right.
Facebook.
Yeah. Great. So what? When did you start building puppets? Because you also build them. When did that come into play? And when did you become a ventriloquist? Give us some backstory on that.
I started building puppets. I mean, close to right away, and but puppets is a very loose word. I
Hmm.
would take a piece of fabric and put like a little mouth made out of cardboard, and then rubber band around it, some googly eyes. That was a puppet to me at one point. And
Yeah.
then I made these, out of those old paper mache eggs you get. They're
Hmm.
not old, but to me they're old because that was my childhood. I love those paper
Right.
mache. I made all these puppets out of them. And I used to take spackle and just make these faces. And I was never patient enough to let them dry.
Hmm.
So I'd paint over them before they're completely dry. And then they have all these pock marks on like they
Oh,
look like burn victims, but I'd carry
oh,
them
geez.
around like super confidently.
Yeah.
And I remember
And
I
these were
brought
just they were figures or they were masks or what were they?
oh, they were figures. But
Figures.
again,
Okay.
that's a loose word. I mean, the
Right.
mouth wiggled. I said it
Hmm.
was.
Yeah.
Everyone else was like, wait, is the mouth wiggling? I'm like, I know I did that.
You're like, you guys don't see it? Come on.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I brought one of those to the first time I ever uh, went to the Van Haven Museum. And I found that picture, and I have long blonde hair, and I'm carrying this thing around, and it was a box body out of just a cardboard box, and the hands and feet were cut off of a doll that was probably worth some money that my grandma left to my sister. But I really could give it care less. I just was like, I need some hands and feet. I'm going to the Van Haven Museum. I got to look legit. I'm
Yeah.
10 years old. I started performing when I was like 7 at the talent show, and I got a lot of attention for that. And when I made people laugh, that was the second year. First year, there's no laughs there. Uh, but the
Yeah.
second year, I made people laugh, and I got this drug, and I I didn't know what it meant back then, but that was now looking back was when I realized I was an addict. So
Mm.
that drug was just amazing. I was like, I'm taking that in.
Right.
Then over time, it
This
dies
is
down.
this is a metaphor for the feeling you get when you perform, correct?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
of course. Okay, good. Just yeah.
Facebook. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, I did that, and it was fun. And then I started performing professionally at 11, going to like birthday parties, doing it. In fact, I had my worst show I ever did at 11 when I was 11 for a
Mhm.
6-year-old girl's birthday party.
Really?
And something about the 11-year-old blonde, boys with the surfer puppet just doesn't capture the 6-year-old girl demographic.
So
Uh,
could you explain like what happened there? That
yeah, man, I'll tell you what happened.
yeah.
Um, Picture me going into a country club in my all black outfit, like
Mhm.
Johnny Cash with my purple tie, because that's my favorite
Love
color.
it.
And
Yeah.
since then, I've learned that it's your favorite color, and I'm rethinking things.
It's also what Jeff Dunham and Terry Fader use for their marketing colors. It's all really ironic. So
Ironic might not be the right word to use, but when you're involved, maybe. So
wow. Okay.
I'm sorry.
It's
It was
fine.
easy. So I walking into a country club. My dad drove me there, and my dad took a while to like. It was like a year or two after my parents like got on board to where my dad
Mhm.
got bored. So he was taking me there just to.
So he wanted to see that you were committed to the art and not just some kid with a puppet type thing, or what was it?
Well, I think that, and he also like had expectations of me as a person. So like
Sure.
he thought, yeah, you're gonna go to college. You're good
Right.
at music. Maybe you should be a music teacher. Maybe you should do all this stuff. And yeah, I don't know if you wanted me to go into politics like he did or whatever. But so opinions. Ugh.
Yeah,
So
that's fine.
so
We don't need any more of that on Facebook. Yeah.
so anyway, my dad and I walk in, and I open my case, and I realize my cat had gotten into my suitcase the night before because I'd left it open after I'd put
Mhm.
everything in, and I had all my little gimmicks set as if
Oh.
I and she had like, I really should have set it up better. It was enough to where I could take it around, but like if the cat got in the little compartments, she just messed up my cards and stuff. So then,
Right.
yeah, I did magic too. Not proud of that, but you do it now, so I'm not going to make fun of myself
I,
and
d-
go,
I d- well, you gotta, if it's a kid's birthday party, you have to throw some magic in there with the puppet. I don't
dude,
blame
when
you.
they're 6-year-old girls and you're 11, you got to throw everything you got at it.
Yeah.
So I went up there and I
Wait.
did my best. And I always say the worst reaction you can get from an audience, because I like a heckle. Like I don't like
Hmm.
it, but I like the challenge of it. And I like you should never heckle someone because I have material, it's parsed out, and if you throw something in there, it screws up my whole. Anyway,
Sure.
that's how that works. But the worst thing you can get is silence, but complete attention.
Hmm.
And I've gotten that a few times in my life, and this was the worst because it was the first time, and it's just silence the whole way through. And I think I did one trick where like one kid went ooh, and that was it. That was that was it. So then I pack up my stuff all professionally, and I lug it with my dad down the stairs of this, these rich people's, country, whatever. And the lady comes out to pay me, and I was like, please don't pay me. Please don't pay me. I
Yeah.
didn't do my job. I have an expectation of what I do. I'm not gonna take this from you. Please don't.
Right.
And then she goes, no, no, no. You can use it for college. And I'm not. This a single tear ran down my face, and I got in the car, and my dad he just looks at me, and he's like, let's go make dinner, and that was it.
Wow.
And that was probably my worst one ever, other than maybe double talk at the
That
control room.
sounds like a short film.
Yeah. Well, a
Yeah.
lot of these, if you ask me more stories, they're all going to sound like short films because they're kind of not. I don't believe it as I look back. It doesn't seem weird at the time, but then you look back and you go, oh my God, that was pivotal in my life. And I can't believe
So
I didn't.
what? I mean, if that's like so that's like the worst story you have as a show, right?
No, I mean, there's been worse
Right.
in
I'm sure there has been, but
genres, but that one was worse because all the onus, like all, I don't know if onus is the right word. I don't know what that means. I'm walking
Bob
slow.
Bob Brumba just commented. He said silence, but at least you're consistent.
I was I was keeping a pace, okay? Just
Yeah.
but no, I've had worse shows under different contexts, but they weren't all my fault necessarily completely. Maybe the fault how I dealt with them,
Sure.
or but that thing it was my first really bad show, and the first time a adult gave me money while telling me to give up my dreams.
Yeah.
And that for me, it just sticks in my head, and I can't help but laugh to just think of me going, I'm gonna keep doing this after that.
Yeah.
Like, I
Well,
don't
it's
know.
kind of like what I told you when because people I look like I'm 12, but I'm 19, so I have to like
You're
prompt
19.
people. I know. It's I had to look myself up on IMDb. I have to
I
explain
loved you in
that I'm a
Paranormal.
thank you. Did you
Okay.
have that written down for
No, I
reference?
just came up with it right off the
Wow,
nose.
the
Don't you
comedy
love
of
me?
Jeff Goltz, ladies and gentlemen. I have to do a little intro in my show and explain that I'm a college student and that I do shows and stuff, so people understand. Oh, wow, he's older than he is, and because I do a lot of retirement centers because you do the shows you can get, and I did this one, hour show thing, and then I did walk around afterward. And I went up to this older lady and I said, "Did you enjoy the show?" And she like nodded, and then she goes, "Stay in school." And I just like, okay, so yeah, I get that, and I've had
Yeah,
I've
it's
had
a great feeling as you lug your 200 pounds of equipment back to your
oh
car.
man,
Yeah,
yeah.
and it's just like, okay, you.
So what about that made you want to continue it? Because that's, I mean, is it just wanting to like never do that again, and wanting to like just that yearn to be a professional, or
I think
just the passion you had for the art?
in my brain, I'm probably more of a comic, so like my brain was
Okay.
like sadomasochistic in the way of like we want to bomb and we kind of enjoy that for some reason because it pushes us to get better. And I don't know
Yeah.
what that did, but it was like I got to do better and I got to
Mhm.
prove to myself that I can do better. And so that pushed me
Did
forward.
that mentality kind of keep you from worrying about bombing? Like, if I bomb, it's not that big of a deal. Or
No, I think I just got over my fear of bombing
okay,
because but I the fear became, I mean, as you keep doing it, I don't know if about you, I don't know how you probably don't bomb as much because I go up in front of people who don't know I'm going to be there, and often, I'm not on the bill a lot of the times. I'm just doing a guest spot, or I'm going up in like front of a bar or people that didn't come to see me. So it's more of like I have no idea what to expect, and neither does the audience. But if you're doing a show like like when I do birthday parties or events and all those kind of things, they don't you don't usually bomb because they're expecting you and they understand what you're doing.
yeah,
But for me, my fear of bombing was I think it just it just got softened by that, but also kind of liking the bomb. I don't know what about that.
sure.
I like it. It's a weird thing, I like it a little bit, and it's there's something wrong with
Is
me.
this as with your ventriloquist puppet with you, or just as a comedian, like a stand-up routine, or is it kind of both?
For liking the bomb a
Mm-hmm.
little bit.
Yeah.
Well, I know that bombing makes you better because I try to add like a joke or a joke in every night or flip something around and say something differently, add a different emphasis every night.
Sure.
And I know how that changes, like the little tiny minute changes.
Mm-hmm.
And every time something doesn't go well, it makes me go, "Oh, so that didn't work. Let's check that off the list." And then I found that every time you bomb, you
Mm-hmm.
go home and your brain just starts to go, what could I have done? What could I have done? What could I have done? And then all of a sudden you think of a million things you could have done. And then that becomes writing because
Right.
then the next time you have that, just throw that out. It's almost like I thought of this right now.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's, the charade of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Mike Palma, we just had a comment come in from Mike Palma. He said, "Is he doing any feature or headlining work anywhere? Can we come see a show?"
Um, I mean, yes, and no, no yeah, of course you can. Just keep up on my Facebook. I think I'm featuring. Again, all my gigs got canceled with this corona, and that's everybody out here. So there's no. But I think I still have a gig booked in January, February, March, April, May, June, August. I think it's in August
Mm-hmm.
because I get the A's mixed up and the M's. I'm kind of dyslexic, not kind of, pretty. I'm white and slow, but and keep updated on that. And if you come out to Crackers Comedy Club, the depending on when I do guest spots, and those are fun, and I really like those. But that's my home club, so I go around. Then there was going to be a headlining thing, but that got Corona. I
So I'm
hate it.
curious, do you have is there a comedy club spot that you prefer to work at? I mean, is there one
Oh,
that
in the city
hmm
where I live.
yes.
Uh, I mean, yes, and it was a newer thing because I started working there and everything. But Crackers Comedy Club, I really like.
Okay.
Then of course Helium is here too, which is a chain. So a lot of you guys who are watching around the United States probably know Helium,
Right.
and those rooms are pretty great. I've never really done that well in Helium because I've only done the open mic.
Mhm.
But it's a fun room and you have potential. But for as I said, my weirdness is every week I have to go to the bars, and I have to go to those if I can. And I love this Liberty Street pub is this weird little place on Mass Ave that sometimes is a great show and sometimes is an awful show. And I love the unexpected. And sometimes I'll bring Julio and not even take them out because they don't deserve it. And I'll tell them that. And it's fun.
So you open with some stand up and then you pull out Julio, or how does that work?
It really
Or
depends
and
on
you
the night.
just don't even go up on stage.
Oh, yeah, that would make you happy.
Well, I'm not. I don't pay to see you, so
Oh, no.
I'm already happy.
Yeah, I know. You don't need to pay. Yeah, I wouldn't
Oh,
let you in anyway. But
okay.
we what was your question? Sorry, I just
I
started
don't even
a
know.
bunch of jokes that
Something
I
about
couldn't say on Facebook.
oh, how do you, is it just the ventriloquism when you do
Oh,
like a new comedy club, or do you do some stand up and then, and how are they with that when you introduce yourself to someone booking for a club or something like that? I mean, do you say, I'm Jeff Goltz, I'm a comedian and I'm also a ventriloquist, or is it the fact that you're a ventriloquist that they would even
I think I don't really introduce myself very much. I just go out and I perform a bunch as much as
right.
I can. And then if they see my set, it's usually a lot easier to introduce myself or like to
Hmm.
say hi. Because I'm not just going to go up and be like, hey guys, I don't know about you, but I'm carrying a suitcase and I'm wearing heels, so book me.
Yeah.
But no, I, 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 I like stand up a lot, but in sets that are like, anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes long, there's no time for that. So I walk out with Julio and
Okay.
I just start going. But if I'm doing like a 45-minute show, I'll go out there, do my stand up and get the crowd to like me before I bring up the puppet, which genuinely makes it a little bit easier because I
Hmm.
found if you come out and with just the puppet, it takes a little bit longer for them to like you.
Right.
And um and that's really, really important. I've realized like that first 5-10 seconds on stage, that impression, ooh, that really
Yeah.
that can really make or break you. And that's why I always say when I bomb, I tend to bomb before I even go up
No.
because it's the mentality in your head. And if you
Sure.
start doubting yourself and you start thinking of things, you're just bombing before you go up there. You got to go up with the confidence
Yeah, you
that
have to have that performer smile and go up there and charm them. Yeah.
yeah, well, it's charming, but it's also being yourself as much as you can, especially in the comedy
Mhm.
clubs, just
Sure.
because. And I've had that trouble because Julio and I used to be a thing where I subtracted my part of my personality that was Julio when I
Hmm.
did the Julio routine. But the problem with that is it took away a lot of my charm and my own personality. So now I
That's
have
a
to be
very
me.
interesting thing. So how do you approach that from a writing standpoint? I mean, if Julio is kind of the jerk and you're supposed to play the straight man, how do you also, I mean, do you give yourself kind of punches back at Julio, or how does that work?
Well, I give it to where I make us have two different senses of humor, and that's what I've been trying to do, and that's a newer thing. That's something that
Okay.
because before I'd been subtracting, and I just realized that it's so important that I'm myself on stage because myself tends to be the most likable. If I'm just Jeff as Jeff is, and then bring out the cockroach with me. Um, so with it's an add and subtract thing, but for my routine, I have to have a sense of humor, and we have to be frenemies because
Hmm.
when there's because we're doing audience interaction,
Sure.
and I'm having to do all this improv, and I have to be able to do jokes. He has to be able to do jokes, and we both have to have our own characters set up by that point. So
Hmm.
I have to be Jeff, and then he has to be the asshole who makes fun of me for all the insecurities that I have,
Right.
and so also that gives me the thing of like when I'm doing audience, back and forth. There's a lot of times you probably know this as a ventriloquist. There are certain phrases that to make them really punch, you
Hmm.
want to put emphasis on things that you can't necessarily emphasize quickly in that short
Sure.
period of time. You have to
Sure.
it's all about timing. You got to get your
Yeah.
breath support like a choir singer. So I'll say it and I'll get to say the jokes. So then we both become funny. And what's fun too is I get away with everything because I have a puppet
Yeah.
and I'm sexually ambiguous to everybody. So I
Right.
can flirt with anybody and
Mm-hmm.
no one cares.
Right.
And so that's my one strength. And I know that's a strength. And I know a lot of people get jealous of it.
Was that now? I'm curious. Was that something you found with the heels or without? Like before?
That
Like,
I
was
could
that
get
just something that you could just? I mean, it was just like, and maybe you picked up on the realization later on, or was it?
of like I could get away with things because I'm sexually ambiguous, or
Yes.
saying, yeah, I would say I started to have inklings of it early on because when you start doing stand up, because I did a year of stand up before I even brought out the puppet because I was
Sure.
the P word and I was just so scared. And I did this stand up and I realized a lot of times people will come up to you and be like, what was that? Because they assumed something different. So if
Yeah.
I did jokes about girls or whatever, everyone would pause. And because they're all thinking like girls, like they have
Mm-hmm.
that thought. I didn't know they're having this thought.
Right.
So when I heard that, I was like, oh, okay. So you start realizing what the audience is thinking, and you got to address that right away.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was gonna, when I got the courage to be like, oh, I'm gonna wear what I want. So then I
Mm-hmm.
started wearing heels. I realized two things very quickly. I get heckled way less in heels, and I get away with a lot more in heels.
Yeah.
And it makes my jokes easier to do because people don't feel like they have to cringe as much or whatever. Like they don't have to like be like, is that okay to say or not? It's just like he said
Mm-hmm.
it, and I
Yeah.
like that. And because I'm already I like to just live in that tightrope anyway with
It's kind of
people.
like I was watching America's Got Talent. Are you familiar with America's Got Talent?
Never heard of it. Tell me about it.
Never heard. No. Okay. Well, maybe you should try out for the show. But they had a comedian that was a bearded drag queen, and
Mm-hmm.
they did a bit. It's kind of like that, right? Wouldn't you say? And that the comedy is kind of, yeah.
I don't think it gives you an excuse to be not funny unless you're like I found that it gives you an excuse to a lot of people. Like I hate new comedy, like alt. I'm gonna be like meta and like
Right.
share my opinion. And if that gives you an excuse to be not funny, because to me that's not funny.
Well, cause it all seems like this. It's the same, and it's just these people bandwagoning off
And
what's,
that mentality of like knowing people think that has totally worked in my advantage because they all assume I'm on that team.
yeah.
And like, are
So
you
looking
kidding
at
me?
some, it's great. So looking at some comments, let's see. Smith Henderson said, "Double talk was okay, just a weird spot for you." Um,
That's one way to describe it. Woof. I was there. I bombed before I showed up that day.
yeah.
I was just, I, I,
But it's
I was a
also the
good crowd. No,
audience
I
and
wasn't a
knowing
good
your
person
audience,
there.
and sometimes it just doesn't.
Yeah, yeah. I just felt like I was negative from the point I got there, and it's. I hate that I was like that day. But I will say that knowing your audience and everything, I'm not a kids performer outside of like the point of like, oh, I can make, I can do little kid shows and do little educational shows. I mean, pretty good at being a children's educational performer and then like
Mm,
puppet shows. But my
yeah,
ventriloquist shows, like when it comes to comedy, I write a good amount of comedy when I don't have shackles behind me,
sure.
and that's what I feel like when I'm trying to write a kid show because half the jokes I know how they go in that would go in the comedy club. So see, even some of like these jokes that would work great and would be really funny in those like kid shows just make me go ugh, and I
Yeah.
can't do it. And I respect kids performers and the comedians who don't. I think it's like, dude, you need to swallow your pride one day and go to a freaking birthday party because those kids are some, you can take
That's a tough crowd because kids are
I
in your
had a
face and they'll
great
call out.
best heckler I ever had was at a kid's birthday party show.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. He had to have heard this somewhere. because it was way too good. Way
Yeah.
too good.
What did he say?
But he stood up, and they're all sitting, and he stood up in like the family room, and he goes, "You look like a gay Cabbage Patch Kid." And I'm like, where did you hear that? Because at the time, it was the perfect insult. Because first of all, he had to know what gay was, and then second of all, he had to figure out what Cabbage Patch Kids were. Because those were like,
wait, who said that? Was it one of the dads there?
No, the kids. The kid was like 6 or 7, and then he went. Then this was the best part. He went, "You look like a gay Cabbage Patch Kid," and he goes, "I'm going potty," and he just got up and walked away, and all the kids looked at him like he was like just Don Juan de Verona, just like the coolest mofo in the world. They're like, "Could we do that? What? We could have done that?" And like afterwards, I just laughed. I thought it was so funny, and I had to like keep it together. Because I still want to know if anyone has seen that other place. I want to know where he heard that from. And if he came up with that, boy, do I hope he becomes a comedian someday.
Yeah. I'm surprised you don't use that in your act. That sounds like a great
story.
The story or that insult.
Joke. Oh yeah. Well, I when I was chubbier, it worked more. I don't think it works as much now. You know, because it looks like I have like I'm a Cabbage Patch Kid with bulimia. That would be a better joke.
Oh, there you go. Stacy Michael said OMG, and then Gwen Bowman said hilarious. Let's see, we've got just looking over here at the questions. Okay, so this is interesting. So where do you draw inspiration from? In your comedy writing and then in your building? Those are two separate questions.
You know how hard it is not to make a joke right now live in front of so many people that I shouldn't, because it would get me in trouble. All right. Zip zap. I'm going to be nice to all the other people in my art form. Well, I'm going to say field because they aren't all artists. But I get comedic inspiration. I think it comes I like Norm Macdonald a lot. I think Norm is one of the funniest.
Yeah, he's great.
But then I also like roast jokes, which are not very Norm Macdonald at all.
So what, like Jeff Ross?
Jeff Ross is pretty cool. He's not my favorite. There's quite a lot that are. He's quick, but not my favorite out of the roast guys. And then, but I feel like I take more inspiration from like ventriloquially. I like Freddie Mercury as a singer when it comes to like my ventriloquism.
Yeah, Freddie Mercury is like one of my favorite ventriloquists.
Yeah, that's what I say. I've said that before, like because of the way he approached certain notes and how he approached subharmonics.
So you're also a singer, is that correct?
Yeah, I do that.
You do some singing in your show. Okay, great.
Well, no, I don't sing in my shows. I do a little sing-songy thing, but it's not like my actual music. So like I'm not actually belting or actually singing. I'm just I do a song called Breaking Up with Ventriloquism. And my show devolves into that, and that song's quite good, but it's really serves a purpose of comedy and a storyline and conflict more than it serves any kind of musical. What is it? 4 chords and then another 4 chords. So that's 8 chords. It's not a big song at all. But yeah, so I like Freddie because of how much, the energy is like walking on stage with that energy is so important to bring it with you, because there's been so many nights where someone's on before me and the one before them, they walk, baseballs, and then just start doing their stupid bit, ends in like some curse word or like someone up there talking about her private bits, and then and then thank you, my name is every woman comic, and then I'm sorry, all my lady comics out there that are really funny, I apologize, you are really funny.
All one of you. All right, so you're saying,
but so I bring that energy, which you always bring, but all the voice stuff, other inspiration, it kind of comes from a lot of different places, but it often doesn't come from ventriloquists. So like ventriloquists, I probably look up to like 4 ventriloquists as people who like kind of influence my act. Number one, you can see from a mile away, which is Sammy King, partly because he mentored me as a kid, you know, and and then also Otto and George. I mean, I love Otto and George. There's just so many great
Is
lines.
that for the ventriloquism style or the comedy? Because I see some of both of that in your performance, which is great if that's where you draw.
Landon? You know what, Landon? I should get a green screen.
No, I mean I'm serious. It's great. You know what? I think we all should.
Comedy writing, his approach to word choice is
Sure.
so beautiful.
Yeah. He's got great diction.
Like, I was suck. Okay, well, diction. I mean, he doesn't. He moves his lips, sure, but
right.
My peck is wood. I was circumcised with a pencil sharpener. That is just the way he approaches it. Beautiful, and that's the cleanest of his jokes. So I'm gonna stop. And then you know, of course, Pete Michaels, which is another club act that is great. I'm trying to think of. I'm definitely missing. Wayland and Madam Wayland for Flowers, which not a ventriloquist, but you know, when it comes to movement and character, just amazing.
One of my favorites as well.
Yeah, and then more comedians like Patrice O'Neill I love, and I could go on and on about different comedians. Norman Patrice I really like, but when it comes to building, I think, you know, as a kid it was the 2 people who I looked up the most at the convention were Scott Bright and Jimmy Eisenberg. Okay. Because, you know, I loved Sellberg's as like a display piece kind of thing. Like it's cool. But it was like, I want something on stage that looks like a cartoon or something weird and artsy that reflects me.
Yeah, their stuff is very has a definitive style to it as well. Yeah.
Style, and I want it and something that's just, you know, something original and one of a kind. And so that was my approach. And then when I was 9 years old, I started working at P. Winkle's Puppet Studio, which was this puppet studio in Indianapolis, and I worked there for like 10 years. And then I helped them move, and we all helped them move to the Indianapolis State Museum, and I think we did like 3 years there. And so there I did lights and I did sound, or not as much sound, did lights, and I did, you know, all everything from sweeping up to ushering to selling things. It was I sold so many puppets. I would be a millionaire. Not really, but I sold a lot of puppets. And that place was where they taught me how to build. They had a puppet camp, and they taught me how to build the Verna patterns. Okay. That's awesome. And then they taught me how to do the marionettes, and they did simple ones, pretty simple. I was already at the highest level at the time, which was level 3. And then they made me a PIP, which is a puppeteer in progress, and that's a little troop of us who we all work together. And and before long, I was, you know, going to Potlatch and just performing with them, and I would go all around with like Heidi Shackelford and you know, carrying. We went to several events where she's doing puppet shows, and before you know it, I would always go with them to Penrod, and now Penrod books me and them every year, which is cool.
That's neat, yeah.
And it's funny because they taught me how to do everything, and technically I'm competition now, which I'm not. If anyone,
but that must make them proud too, to see that how you've flourished into this performer.
That's a nice way to say it. But you know, Debbie, Peggy, and Heidi were so influential. Like these 3 really strong women who ran the puppet studio and knew how to do everything. And then they taught me how to build everything. And that was where I learned all my building skills. And they are proud of me for good, or I hope they are, because in some ways, because so much of what I do now and get paid for, like how much everything I've bought, you know, my car, is owed to them, because I didn't know how to do this shit. Then they taught me, and that's invaluable. And that group of people, they deserve so much credit. I mean, Debbie and her PIP program. I mean, it's not just me, and like they weren't trying to make professional puppeteers. They're trying to make humans, like well-adjusted people. So
Sure.
how we all interacted, and when you react in a troupe and you're performing together, you learn a lot of social skills. We also learn marketing and how to sell ourselves, you know, and then building at, you know, every part of building a puppet. It's a lot of different
It is.
process.
There's a lot of different aspects to it.
And now you can fix a lot more things and do a lot more things around than you would
Mm-hmm.
otherwise. And you feel
Completely.
capable of learning things with your hands, which is so important too. So that passion came, you know, followed with me. And I always have to give those ladies credit for everything as style too, because marionette, they were teaching me stuff that they weren't teaching anyone else, because no one else wanted to learn how to make molds. No one else wanted to do all this, you know, how do you cast rubber? Like none of the other kids wanted to learn that, but they were like, yeah, come over, we'll get pizza and I'll teach you how to do it.
Wow.
What? Who else would do that? And these are the P. Winkles people. So
that's awesome.
I owe so much to
what age were you when you did that?
9 was when I started at P. Winkles.
Okay, wow.
From what so that was just the bomb. I mean, I remember going there and I was like, whoa, there's a puppet studio in Indianapolis. This is crazy. And then when they hired me, I could not believe, you know, at 11 years old, a lot of my friends doing I'm getting paid to do lights at a puppet studio, at like a little puppet theater, and then going out doing birthday party shows. I'm making more money than any of the young kids. And now they have real jobs, and now I'm making the same amount. But no, a little bit more.
No, I love that. I love doing shows in high school and getting to brag about it. And, you know, because it kept me from having a normal job working at Sonic, you know, bringing people their food or whatever.
Yeah, but you would be a great face for Sonic.
Yeah. Not too sure about that. I don't know if you want me right up on you in your car, but okay.
They certainly don't
Kimberly.
want me in my heels.
Huh?
They certainly don't want me in my heels.
Well, you can rollerblade there if you work there, so I think you'd fit right in. Kimberly said, Jeff, is your puppet a chef? I couldn't tell because the screen moved from person to person on the Zoom you did a while back.
No.
Feel free to ask questions too.
I'll be straight up. I don't know anything about the Zoom I did a while back. So
his main character he was showing is a cockroach.
Yeah, I have a cockroach.
It's not a beetle, right?
Not Juan the Beetle, though.
No, okay.
Landon likes to tote that on all social media. Juan the Beetle, and every time I think that you're done with that, you just pick a different similar bug.
well, the next one's gonna be a grasshopper, so I'll let you in on that one.
Yeah. Let me know when we get to praying mantis.
Oh, that's right after cricket. Let's see.
Cricket is such a good punchline. Good. I love that.
Thank you.
I gotta use that as a punch.
I say it because I feel you're probably used to crickets. No cookie cutter. Stacy Michael said no cookie cutter stuff. Someone commented, Otto loved Paul Winchell. Howdy. Hello, welcome.
Paul Winchell, I think, you know, if we're going back in the olden days, mine is Senior Wences, Paul Winchell, and Edgar Bergen. I mean, he was the one who got me started on it, was Edgar Bergen, because I saw him on the Muppet Show. But Paul Winchell, best technique, best characters, just by far one of the greatest ventriloquial performers I've ever seen. So yeah, Otto was smart.
So before you started and you did these comedy clubs, you performed in other venues. You do like the occasional birthday party. Is that right?
Yeah, I did so many things, but with P. Winkles, I did a lot more because it was more puppetry gigs and such. So it was more of like I'm helping out behind the scenes, and then before you know it, I was a part of the Halloween show, and I'm still a part of the Halloween show, even though we don't have a puppet studio anymore because the Indianapolis State Museum is great. And I'm not going to say anything else because I don't want anything liable or things to be put on the puppet studio because I'm not representing them right now. Legal. All right. But yeah, I'll say that we I did a lot of different things, puppetry wise,
Sure.
and theater, and even now, like even like a year and a half ago, I get paid to do like be in theater productions and such, but I tend to just get paid for like the comedy relief almost exclusively, or like someone who's emceeing, because it's, I don't know, that's where I fit pretty well, I guess, in like a theater. Like, where are you gonna put Jeff? Put him, either you're gonna put him at the piano, or you're gonna make him run around in his heels and try to get people to laugh before you send out some broad to sing some show tune. And by broad, I mean a gentleman.
Right. So how are you viewed by fellow comedians, and how did you deal with that?
Did someone ask that?
No, I'm asking that.
Okay. Well, that's a great question. And this is where I bring Jeff Dunham in, just because he's done so much for a lot of us. And we both got tricked into being in a Jeff Dunham hit piece. So let's set the record straight. First of all, I was only bullied in middle school and not high school, and I dropped out of high school because
I'm sorry. For those of you not knowing what Goltz is talking about, he's talking about the Vice documentary short film. I don't know what it is, on the Vinhaven Ventriloquist convention that was skewed in a rather negative light. You can find that. I'll link that below in the YouTube video.
I still have that mofo's number, and I can't believe I did him a favor that I'm not gonna. Anyway, that man is I don't want to say anything bad about Tashi. They have to have a job anyway. They had to make it a story, but I call it frankenbiting. I heard that from someone, but like when they take different bits or clips and they put them together to make them tell a story, they started with a joke I made, which everyone laughed at behind the camera, but Tashi kept a straight face, was like, because I said despite the several beatings, and he was like, oh, seriously? Well, then I had to go like, yeah, I mean, I got beat up a couple times but what I'm, and I mean this, is I did not get bullied in high school at all, because I was already funny. I was going to comedy clubs, more than I was doing my homework, which means I was not doing either of those things a lot. But no, and I'll say that middle school, I wasn't just bullied for ventriloquism, because there are plenty of other reasons to bully someone, and especially me. Okay. But that again, that went away quickly, and it wasn't a big deal. And everything you saw in that documentary that I said involving that was put in. So it was all cut so odd. Yeah. And like they cut my jokes out of context when he said, so would you bring your puppets to school? I go, no, I wouldn't want to get beat up. But then I moved. There's a tag. No,
it's fine. They baited me for where ventriloquism like originated or something, and I was young and I said something about devil worship, and they like pan back to like this, like the world's oldest photo of like some guy in a town square getting hung or something. So yeah, it's fun times.
Well, all I gotta, and then they called Jeff Dunham an a-hole, which all I gotta say is he's there out of like 1 week out of the year, and he's performing at arenas multiple times a week. And this is his vacation. His wife was there, his children were there, and his two newborn baby boys, and his wife Audrey's parents, and they thought that they were entitled to an interview, and because they didn't get that interview, that they were a-holes. And I'm like, excuse me, you're not entitled. Jeff gave time to the young ventriloquist that year.
But also, it's the way that they skew it, because they don't ask him politely. They like have the camera like hidden, and they're trying to, do that whole thing. And he's already, had stuff happen with TMZ and all that. So,
Well, I didn't know anything about TMZ stuff, but I will say they asked me the question upstairs, because once they got me in my room, they thought they could get like dirt on Jeff. Right. And I was just, oh yeah, he's done so much for me and so much for the whole community. He's so supportive of everyone, even at their smallest. There's no other art form where you can go up to the best person in that art form and they'll talk to you and give you.
I loved that part of the video.
Yeah, exactly. Didn't put any of that in. And then they said he was racist, and I was like, wait. I was like, they're like, Ahmed the Dead Terrorist. And I go, hey, it didn't say he was Muslim. And they're like,
No.
well, and I go, can we not make fun of terrorists anymore?
Yeah.
Like, what? What? So, yeah, so I didn't put that in anyway. But the whole point of the Vice thing, I think I was coming to a point there. What was the original question? Because I got so distracted by Tashi. What was the one you asked? Oh, yes, I remember now. It was what the other comics thought about me.
Right.
And their view of the ventriloquism thing. Again, that's where I say Jeff Dunham deserves so much credit, because I got like everyone treated it like it was a real thing, like that's a real form of comedy. Yet they treated me poorly because I deserved it, because I wasn't.
What do you mean because you deserved it?
Well, just because ventriloquism is a real art form doesn't mean you're great at comedy club ventriloquism yet. So it took me a while before people at all gave me any respect, and I think I have some respect. I'm not saying I get a lot of it, but yeah, comedy club stuff.
So they didn't, yeah.
And it was hard because some people would compare me to Jeff Dunham as a compliment. Other people would compare me to Jeff Dunham as an insult, and I could never tell which one was which. And so sometimes I would get pissy at people.
It's not a bad
when
insult,
they were just giving me a compliment. And I would be like, oh, I'm sorry. And yeah, so it made my life easier and a little harder because of the whole racism thing. And I've had to deal with that because Julio the cockroach. But, the only people who ever get offended at this point really are white women.
Isn't that funny?
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
White women who doesn't matter. And then their boyfriends on behalf of them. That's the only other one. I've gotten boyfriends on behalf of them. And then hecklers are usually white women or white men. And that's after hundreds and hundreds.
You should have a little complaint box next to Julio's case. You could just direct in there. I said you should have a complaint box with a little pen and paper that you can just.
I would love to hear that.
You can read them on your next show.
I always want to hear the complaints that people say behind my back, because I have a friend who is
I can send you some.
Or yeah. Who is like he's a parent, a mentally handicapped, apparently,
Right.
He's so funny and is such a good writer, and he doesn't come off that way, but I know as a kid that he was diagnosed as such, and he says retard in his routine a bunch, but again, someone has to hold the microphone for him, okay? So and he gets to say that, all right? There's we put a ramp up so that he can, and then this lady came up to me after a show, and I was selling his merchandise because I always want to, especially, help anyone sell merchandise because I want them to make money, but also him so he can swipe the cards and stuff. And she told me, not him, but she's like, he shouldn't use that word so much. And I go, what word? And she goes, the R word. And I go, you mean retard?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, but he's retarded. Like, that's what why can't he say that himself? And I'm like, why are you telling me this and not him? Like, that is so annoying to me. And then I tricked her into buying a $25 shirt. So who's laughing now? So, but yeah, I can't imagine. I know a lot of bad things are said behind my back, and a lot of them make me laugh because I agree with a lot of them. Most comedians hate themselves more than anybody hates them.
Right.
So, yeah, it's really nice to know that Jeff has made it easier for me with club owners, because club owners respect it now.
Wow. That's neat. Yeah, well, Linda Mason just commented. She said, "True. I met Jeff Dunham way back before he married his first wife. He's still as sweet as he was way back then. I love that Jeff Dunham."
Sorry, a little dig there at the beginning on his first wife, but okay, Lori, go ahead, Lori.
Yeah, that's like at the convention when who was it? So, it was like junior open mic, and someone was kind of about Terry, and they're like, "Yeah, that was when he was on his his second wife or something, like as if it was like a timestamp. Like, um, she said, "I love that Jeff Dunham insisted on paying you, Jeff, for that small vent figure you made / gave him."
Yeah, he did more than that. That I Landon, do you know about that story?
I don't. Would you like to share
Okay,
it?
so when I was like, I think 13, I
Mm-hmm.
had come up with this thing. I was like, I need to make money because I have no money. And low key, I want to buy puppets at the ventriloquist convention. Because that's back when I
I
aired.
think every kid that liked ventriloquism was like that, or they get
Yeah,
now they get their parents to buy them. But I think that
doesn't that
I'm
make
pretty
us
sure you
mad?
had to. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure you had to pay for everything that you have, and
everything.
so
I
did
mean,
I. So there you go.
that's why Scott, I have to say, Scott Bright gave me a huge discount as a kid on
Yeah,
my surfer dude because I was paying for it myself. And I will
yeah.
always thank him for that. But
And
anyway,
Kim Pointer gave me one on Scooter, my
there you
first
go.
and only
The
hard figure.
ventriloquist
So
community is oddly nice.
they're
You know,
very supportive. Yeah, very nice people.
and if you expect that going into comedy clubs, it's a rude awakening. but
Yeah.
but but the the head was, I made these little puppet heads, and they were, as I said, out of those eggs. And I made this little pamphlet and of how to turn that egg with a little moving mouth. I put a little stick in it with a little moving mouth into a ventriloquist dummy, and it had the supplies you needed to buy and like the steps. And I printed it out and I
Wow.
put them in Ziploc bags, just
Hmm.
normal Ziploc bags that say like whatever logo on the front. And
Sure.
Jeff saw this, and I don't know if it was Kimberly who showed it to him, because I think it was at Kimberly's table.
Hmm.
Um, but he pulled it out in front of, he said in front of everyone at his lecture. He went, now I'm interested in seeing innovation and or whatever, said something like that. And he goes, this is a great example of it. And he pulled out my thing and showed
Wow.
everybody how I had come up with this little make a dummy kit. And they sold out immediately after his thing, and I made all the money that I wanted to make. I mean, and after that, he even, not that year, I don't think, but it might have been the year after that. But he took me on his tour bus, and
Hmm.
took me to a show with my mom and my
Wow.
stepdad, and we went. I got to go in his little workshop on his tour bus, and he
Hmm.
showed me some stuff. And
Oh, neat.
it was more or less, I was asking. It was funny because he thought I'd be obsessed with the dummies, but by that point I was like, so what are the tools you use? Like, what is this tool? What is this tool? And
Yeah.
I just got all the tools, and I still have most of the tools that he told me to get, and
Hmm.
I use them. And again, I'm one of many people who have great stories about him. And he did not ask for any credit for that, or any kind of thing. Like he just did that. Did it? There's no publicity on it. I used to say I was his friend because I was a kid, and that was the closest thing I had to a friend anyway. It was like someone who's nice to me.
Yeah.
So, but he's a real gentleman as a guy. And looking back at me as a kid, I'm like, oh my god, it was so bad. I can't believe anyone saw potential in me. Like, oh, but the fact that they did is just so nice. And
Hmm.
ventriloquist community, until you get older and you start doing humor that they don't like, because they all do kid Christian shows,
Hmm.
they love you and will, you know, they won't alienate you until then. But it's cool. I find that to be the one rift in the ventriloquist community, is what
That's
I do.
exciting. I haven't gotten there yet. So,
Drama.
yeah, it's like a before and after thing. So, I want to talk about this because you don't talk about the fact that you're a builder a lot, and I think it's a really neat thing. And can you kind of tell our audience who Julio is, why he was kind of created, and how what version of him you're on? Because I think every new version you rebuild them because you know how to build them better, and you notice flaws in the old version, which is why I rebuilt some of my main characters. So could you kind of give us some detail on that?
Okay. So I'm not necessarily like Jeff in the way of like, I don't want to show my characters like dead or whatever. I
Sure.
kind of could give a crap,
Hmm.
because and my whole thing is on stage. It's I think of my performance as a and Scott Bright told me this, and I thought it was the coolest thing, which was fourth dimensional art, which is
Mhm.
art that exists in just a certain time frame. So video is an example of it, but that right there is my act exists for, you know, the 7 to 25 minutes that Julio's alive, and then he goes away, and now that art is over. But I like that. So with Julio, he came into being in that vein, though I didn't know of that analogy. So I can show you the differences a little bit to explain.
You
But
can if you want to, or you can just talk about it. It's whatever you want to do.
okay, well, I'll talk about it for now. But basically, I was in school, and that was back in middle school when I was not the happiest person. It was like my bones were breaking because I have a I have a brittle bone condition, real knee slapper or knee breaker, whatever you want to go with. But it was one of those things where I was not getting treated super well because partly, you know, I was easy to pick on, very emotional person, and incredibly, I was probably an asshole too. So let's be honest. I mean, when you look back on your child, you're like, I probably was. Um, but I was in the hallway looking down, and there was this. I didn't never wanted to go to lunch because I have like an eating disorder. So I saw this little tiny water roach, and I was like, wonder what my day's going crappy. I wonder what his day's like. I just started thinking, where does he go back after here? Where is he going in the school? I just thought that's an interesting perspective. And I was like, oh, Sammy has the whole, you know, cockroaches he sets up in the whole routine
Right.
that aren't even there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just, okay, I wonder what they would look like, that kind of whole thing. I thought about that for a little bit. And then I was trying to draw dummies that weren't creepy because that was the main thing when I was younger. Everyone was like, they're creepy. And all my early dummies were, but they thought all dummies were creepy. So I was sitting there in the special ed class because I'm white and slow. And no, I'm visually impaired too, but that's just besides the point. But I'm in the special ed class, so I have an extra thing, extra period every day. Just drawing, and I was showing this girl named Sydney just pictures of different puppets, and just going, "What does this look like? What is this?" And I had drawn the roach on the top, just as like oh, you know, that's just something I drew up there as a doodle.
Right.
And she went, "Oh, the roach is the bug's cute. The bug is cute." And I go, "Oh, cool. But how about this, you know, nosy dummy head? How about this nosy boy figure?" I just kept thinking nosy boy because that's what everyone else had.
Right.
And every time I'd show her a head, she'd go, "Well, the bug was cool, but that's creepy, you know?" And then I went, all right, maybe I'll make this bug. So I made that bug in a weekend, and it's just this blue bug. And at that point, his name was Zahid. And
Wow.
yeah, I, you know, just I was a trailblazer, and
Yeah.
I always call that the trash bag build, is like the first puppet you build and I got that off of uh, uh, there's this company it, I forget which effects company it is, but the ones who did Alien, and
Okay.
they talk about the trash bag build was the first Alien they ever made, which was all out of trash bags and duct tape as a proof of
Oh.
concept. So
Uh-huh.
that's what I call mine now, because I heard that term and I was like, this is really cool. I think it's
Yeah, that's neat.
Studio UDI or UTI or no, not UTI. That's something else. Um, uh, but so I made this trash bag build
Right.
of the bug, and I performed with it, got big laughs, and that was the first time I did the dying bit, where at the end of the routine he just died, and I dropped him on the ground, which I'd never seen anyone just drop their puppet on the ground as a
Mm-hmm.
punchline before.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I'm gonna do that. So then I brought it to Boston for, I don't know if you remember Dan Willinger back when he had an empire.
I
Um,
do. Yeah.
and
I do.
they say that Rome wasn't built in a day. And so he, I brought it there, and in Boston I did a drawbridge joke, which because all the people went to the ventriloquist convention, and I said, "Where are you from?" And he goes, "The drawbridge," and that killed. And I was like, "Whoa, that's awesome!" And so I kept, working with it. And then, the summer following up at the puppet studio, it was puppet camp. And I was like, well, I'm going to make a Julio the Cockroach, like the Julio the Cockroach. And every time I built him, I went, this is the one,
Yeah.
And so I performed with it, and it was cool. And I immediately came up with like a million things I didn't like about him.
Yeah.
So and it was all with performance and movement. And then I built another one. And then I built another one as I built the act. And I always wanted the puppet to be as good as the act, like not take away from it. So,
Sure.
so every time I do a different puppet, and it was really fun. But then you start to hate the puppet. You start to think of things, and then you just got to make a new one. And I think this is number 6, but it might be number 5, because I haven't performed with every single one I've made, because there's been 1 or 2, but the second one I don't count because it was just a proof of concept. But
Right, but it's getting the look right in the eyes and all the facial features too. I mean, even though Julio's a bug, sometimes you just,
and his body,
yeah.
the first one that I really liked was the one that's in the Van Haven Museum now, and that's the one that I started doing comedy clubs with, which was I call him the skinny Julio the Cockroach, because that was when I was fat and Julio was skinny.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did so many shows with that one, and I dropped him. And that was the year that I won, the year before you won for the first time at the convention. The next 2 years you won also, but you competed against toddlers, and I'm always going to hold you.
Who did you compete against again?
Who did I compete against?
Yeah, yeah. Because you're also you won the Van Haven Junior Mic competition 2 years in a row. So could you
Not in
talk
a
about
row.
that too?
I don't think I did it. I didn't do it in a row.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you did it 3 times in a row.
Yeah, I thought
but
for
yeah,
some reason I thought it was 2 years in a row. That's
no, because well, there's a whole thing about the competition about, like, when I started, it wasn't even a competition. They had it was everybody wins, and they had this. It was goofy.
no, they handed
So
out what was it? The last year I did it, the third year I won, they passed out participation awards before it started. So
I get it, but I feel I we both know how it feels to perform in front of those people as a kid,
but
and how
Jeff, the reason why you won it twice is because you took risks.
okay,
So
you can't do inside jokes. Because
it's not an
I can't
inside joke. I'd like that you take risks. Did you have Julio? Was that both times you won? You used Julio?
no. I did a new puppet almost every year because I was trying to
Oh.
figure stuff out. I think I did a new puppet every single year. Julio was that year, and the last year I competed,
Mm-hmm.
and I dropped him on the ground, and it got this huge laugh. And then I went over to play the piano, and the problem was the microphone wasn't close enough to my face because I didn't have them. I made some mistakes when it came to microphone stands, and I'd never not used a microphone stand like this and used
Mm-hmm.
one of the straight one for the keyboard. So
Right.
it kind of trailed off a bit, in my opinion. I mean, but that's me being very, very critical now. But that routine was when I was like, oh, Julia's the one, because I would try to make other characters, and I did, and everyone would go like, "You're the bug guy, you got the cockroach," and I
Right.
went, "Yeah, I got the cockroach," and so then
That's neat.
Julio he chose me, and
Mm-hmm.
it stuck. And the last one before this one had a really flat face and a lot of things I didn't like. The body wasn't like I like it, and now it right now it looks like the puppet I always wanted it to be
Mm-hmm.
for now. But like
Right.
there's gonna be a moment when I go, oh wait, this needs to change. This needs to change, and at which point, I'm gonna have to call you to dye some Antron fleece for me,
Yeah.
because I've actually, the 3 last Julios were made from the same yard of Antron fleece. It might have been less than a yard actually.
That'll be a neat puppet because it'll be a whole different color than the last ones.
Okay, well, you just said that you're bad at dyeing Antron fleece. You
No,
already
I mean I
first
can dye it
place.
where it's close. I mean I'm I'm fairly good at dyeing it, but even
You
when
are
you
good.
dye it, there's 12 and 14 ounce fleeces, and I mean, it's just you get a darker or lighter. I mean, it'll be
Oh,
close, but
it'll be
the way it also fleece fades differently depending on how it's dyed. So that's
yeah.
interesting.
And I told you this is something Sammy did, and
Hmm.
I think
Yeah.
he's public about this, but he would take a little piece of Francisco
Mhm.
and move it to the next one so that he always had part of the character the same, you know?
Yeah.
And so Julio's tooth, I'll pull it off and break it off every time I make a new Julio. So the one in the Van Haven Museum, that's not his real tooth, but I put it on there like the day before I took him
Wow.
in. I ripped it off, put it on the
Yeah.
other one, went on my way because he's the same guy, but
Hmm.
now he's fat and I'm skinny, and all about contrast, folks. So
Yeah. Did you mean to do that when you built him fatter, or was it just like, oh, I want there to be a contrast between me and him, or was it more like it looked better if he was fatter, just with his head, or?
yeah, there were several reasons. I wanted it to be
Hmm.
bigger because at that point with the little one, I was performing in a lot of just little bars and such,
Sure.
just coffee houses and bars and such. And I wanted something a little bigger. Big one was I wanted him to be able to look at me or turn his head. And the way the control was, it was so uncomfortable.
Hmm.
And to do it, it was comfortable to do the act like this, but
Right.
to look at me. And the mechanism was just mouth and raising eyelids. And I was like, I need his head to be able to turn, and I need him to be able to look at me. And then so that made the next one. But I was also like, oh, he's cuter if he's a little fatter.
Hmm.
And this one, when I knew I was skinny and I was this stick, and then I look even skinnier when I have my tight jeans on with the stripe going down them and my high heels, him being a little chubby cockroach looks better. So I just kind of,
So can you talk a little bit about why you had certain uh specialty like mechanisms on Julio that you maybe changed or just, I mean, didn't even do on the next version because you wanted to do something else?
you know, these are great questions, but I can't imagine anybody being entertained by them. But I'm going to answer them as
Answer
entertainingly
this
as I
one, and
can.
then we'll go on to something else.
But basically, I wanted him to be able to move like a cartoon. When I first wanted him, I wanted to be able to use him and deliver the jokes. And then once I was able to do that, like
Mhm.
to where I didn't have to think about it anymore, and I came up with like the weird mechanism, which his control stick doesn't look like a normal dummy's at all.
Right.
I call it a shoehorn. Um, and of course the pointer finger is what works the mouth, and it's a little it's basically a thimble. On the previous one, it was a thimble.
Hmm.
um, but I wanted his eyes to be able to get wide and blink, move side to side. But the big one was I wanted them to turn so he could get angry, and one go up and one go down, so he was
Wow.
inquisitive. And I knew because he couldn't have
This is
eyebrows.
the lids, though. This is not even worrying about putting eyebrows in the puppet.
No, because he
Yeah.
couldn't have eyebrows. The lids are the top of his head. So
Yeah.
I was like, I got to make the eyelids react like eyebrows, which, first of all, no one has done before, probably because no one has needed to, because they would just
Hmm.
have eyebrows. But I figured it out. I got in a fight with a guy at Hobbytown, and now I can't shop there anymore. But I figured it out, and sometimes it's stuck in my head because I thought about it all summer while I was working in Georgia at that gig that we both got recommended for. Thank you, Gary Owen. Um, but that mechanism and all of it, and it was an L bracket that solved the entire issue.
Sure.
Was a little L bracket going through two little like they're like ball socket axle things for toy cars.
Hmm.
But the point being is that solved the whole issue, and I was able to get this cartoony look that I
Hmm.
was always searching for. And
I
then
love that you
we
mentioned.
have
I love that you mentioned cartoony look because we did a live with Bob Rumba the other night, and he was talking about the importance of having a character that's cartoony. So that's great.
Bob is a genius.
Yeah, yeah, he really
You know,
is.
I'm gonna do this joke here because I can't do it anywhere else. I bet Bob's probably watching, right?
Probably.
Okay, so Bob, I've gone to the convention now for 12 years. Is it? It might be when you're longer or not. I don't remember. I think it's 12 years, and he has been the same age that whole time. He has been what I call newly old. Like, not old, but it's like vampiric, but newly old. And I think Gary has that problem too. But Bob just is the full embodiment of he's just been newly old probably since he was like what 20, maybe 15. Like all the pictures.
Like what do you mean by that? Like you can't like because he's so like energetic. You know you wouldn't peg him as.
No, he doesn't look old. He looks newly old, but he's looked newly old his entire life. So it's like you.
It's like slapping the label vintage on like some antiques.
Exactly. Go, dude. Just go 20 years back. Go 20 years back in convention photos and look at Bob and tell me that it doesn't look like maybe like 2 years of change. Like it's
I know. I've seen video from like the drawbridge like years ago.
You never went there, right?
I never went to the drawbridge. I didn't have the honor.
Yeah, but, man. I had I think 3 or 4 good years at the drawbridge. And the thing about the drawbridge that was great was and for those of you who are watching, don't know what the drawbridge is, that is the hotel that the Ventriloquist convention was held at for years and years and years and years and years until we moved it to the Marriott right before they bulldozed it. And so that place was, my favorite part about the drawbridge was they had furniture everywhere, like different furniture pieces. Like you'll see them in a hotel, like it's just faux furniture. But if you're in a hotel, you open one of the drawers, there's nothing in it. At the drawbridge, there was always something in the drawer, which was my favorite thing. But yeah, so the drawbridge, the best thing was the hospitality room opened up to the outdoor pool. So us kids would be up till 3 a.m, and our parents just definitely not wasted, and we're just goofing outside and underneath the stars with our ventriloquist buddies. I mean, some of the coolest memories. I swore I saw a ghost there one year. I mean, there
was a guy that saw ghosts at the Marriott though, right?
Was there?
Yeah, some guy chasing like ghost hunting.
Are you sure he wasn't just playing Pokemon Go?
No, there was like some like adult guy like running around with like a flashlight or something. You don't remember that? It was like a few years ago.
No, did he have like a portable audio recorder and dowsing rods? Like, come at me, ghost.
No, but I don't know. It was maybe hearsay, but he was there. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Bob Rumba said yes, he is here. So Jared McLean said I remember that. I don't know if you're referring to what I said or what Jeff said. I don't know if Jared was at the drawbridge.
Jared
McLean.
Oh, McLean. I think he was at the draw. He had to have been at the drawbridge.
No.
Yeah.
I had seen videos of the drawbridge, but the way it was with me was like, and I've been a ventriloquist since I was 6. So with me, it was like, oh, you want to go to the convention, you have to like earn it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So the reason why I got to go was because of the Terry Fader scholarship.
Shout out to Terry. He's a great guy.
Yeah, shout out to Terry Fader for everything. And he's done some things for like the puppetry conventions, or whether he's done scholarships for them. So it's not, he's really, really generous guy. Smith Henderson commented, ask Jeff about Poopy Doopy Weather Pants.
Oopsie poopsies. Poopy Doopy Weather Pants is a character that will go down in history someday. He's not going to be introduced to the world on this live stream, but he's my adventure into puppetry, and my plan is to do him in my ventriloquist show and be like, ladies and gentlemen, I'm trying something new. I've been doing ventriloquism for years and years, and I thought I've never really tried this before. I'm going to do some puppetry for you guys. Which it just means I'm going to go move my lips. So I bring it, and Poopy is, so Poopy is Poopy Doopy Weather Pants. He's a character. He's,
Oopsie poopsies.
that's all I got to say.
Do you know what? I mean, is he a human? Is he like a Muppet type character where they're like?
He's a hand puppet, but I'm putting a little moving mouth in him. But yeah, so he's a hand puppet, but he has pants that are like meteorology. So like, like suns and lightning and clouds and such, because he's got weather pants. And
because of that
Poopy Doopy Weather Pants. So sometimes, and I'll say different characters come to me in different ways, but all my characters have names that kind of like, Julio the cockroach, the lady I'm working on, Lady Pasquella Palazan, like a very, and Poopy Doopy Weather Pants, the Horn Mad Hedge Pig, these names that are kind of weird, but they have this weird way of sticking. And Poopy Doopy Weather Pants, that name came in my head, and I was like, I could not get it out. And I just started to think Poopy Doopy Weather Pants. Like, it just has a ring to it, and I think it's funny. And yeah, you guys will all see that someday. And I'm just saying the world, hopefully not everyone in this live stream. Because I don't know if all these guys are my demographic, but...
Bob Ramba commented, newly old is like jumbo shrimp.
Yeah. It's like, I was going to say it's like ultimate frisbee. Because it's like ultimate frisbee. I think those two words sound like, anyway, doesn't matter.
What is your process on joke writing? Because you hear, especially for a ventriloquist, do you write ventriloquist material like it's normal, stand-up material, and then transfer it to the puppet? Like if you, I guess the way that I should put it is like if you see like Jeff Dunham perform, he's like a comedian, but he has puppets. Like all that material, you could reword to do it as a stand-up. So
depends. I mean, stand up within those characters. He uses something that I could have, could use more and better, which is the situational stuff. You got to give him credit for that. But I definitely, when I sit down to write, I'm not writing for ventriloquist because I don't care much for ventriloquism. Like when it comes down to it, I used to love it. But as an art form, like watching it, there's like 15 people I enjoy to watch do it.
Well, it became stagnant because you had this style that the outsiders knew as what a ventriloquist was, and people that wouldn't develop their own styles cling to that. Right.
And it's a very one-dimensional, like the ventriloquist becomes a very one-dimensional thing, and the puppet's interesting, and then you're, as a ventriloquist, just asking questions, which I've fallen in the past, and I hate to fall in that trap, and I know a lot of people fall in that trap, and I never wanted that. But there are many times where I write a joke, and I want it to work in ventriloquism, but it doesn't, and I try it, and it can only be a stand-up joke. And other times I'll write a joke in ventriloquism. Doesn't work that well in ventriloquism, but it works as a stand-up joke because it'll be like, oh, this is something Julio would. And then it's like, no, it only works in stand-up. So, and that tends to be the stand-up bits I have right now, which are all the jokes I can't really do with the puppet. Right. It doesn't work as well. So when I sit down, a lot of times, again, I said writing in the way of like, watching your sets. My advice, which is not something coming from me, it's coming from a bunch of other people who told me, and comics say this, but the first one to tell me was Sammy King, which was film every set you do, film it and force yourself to watch it. And I say watch it that night because it's going to be harder the next day and the next day, and especially after other shows where you think you've improved. So you want to watch it afterwards so you see what you're doing, because you probably have tics that you're not thinking about, like saying or a bunch, or like hey, or like, or you guys, or also you're doing tics with the puppet, that you don't realize you're doing. Maybe the puppet doesn't have very good eye contact. You might even realize that your puppet doesn't look good from on stage. A lot of people buy these really, really nice puppets and they're painted like dolls. and then from on stage, as great as the sculpture may be, they look like garbage, and they don't move very well because they're just focused on the movements of the face, the guys who build them, because they build mostly for collectors. And when they go up on stage with these great, beautiful pieces, they don't work as performance objects. So film your sets, watch them for all that stuff. Best thing for material is to watch that, because you think of other things to say. And if you ever get heckled and you have a video of it, watch it and go, I could have said that. I could have said that. I could have said that. Because what you don't realize is when you say, I could have said that, that's just your brain writing and you not having to do much work doing it. And the way I do it now is I constantly just, anytime I think of something kind of silly or funny, I'll just jot it down. And by jot it down is like I just record it into my phone.
Sure.
And I label it. And, you know, sometimes I'll call Landon and be like, hey, I wrote 5 jokes last night. These are roast jokes. But yeah, especially during Corona times, I have been doing that. I apologize, but I don't have any.
No, it's fun. You know, we're both builders, and so we're always, you know, chatting about what we're working on, and yeah, it's fun to see what you're up to, and likewise. I'm curious, do you ever find that you write a joke and then you have to rewrite it so it fits when you perform it as a ventriloquist? So, like, are there like certain things that are hard for you to say as a ventriloquist, so you have to rewrite a joke, or have you gotten to the point where you're just that good?
I'm just that good.
Yeah.
No, I have a rule. First of all, I often rewrite jokes because of how they need to come across in ventriloquism in like a conversation or within a section. So comedians, the way we talk about it, it's so pretentious. And when I say we, I mean collectively, and a lot of comics, whoever might watch this might go comic, but just listen. So we write a joke, which is a setup and a punchline. Couple jokes together in like a sequence is a bit. A few bits together is a chunk. So for me, it's about taking those jokes and reworking them so the bit's right, and then stacking those bits. So often I have to rewrite a joke so it fits within my chunk, or that it just flows in ventriloquism.
Sure.
Now, if there's a punchline that I like and it's hard to say in ventriloquism, I have to say it. So when like my roast joke, Julio calling me, you look like a lesbian Reese Witherspoon. That's not even remotely easy to say without moving your lips.
Right.
So
You really got to punch it up when you say
so
it.
you got the part around right here,
Yeah.
and you go lesbian Reese Witherspoon.
But
Lesbian Reese Witherspoon.
what that involves is breathing technique too, and
Yes,
no one
right.
thinks about breathing.
That is what I tell people, dude. And that's why I said Freddie Mercury when I said as a singer is like, you support from down here. I say when you breathe in, your diaphragm descends, your waistline enlarges, and your rib cage expands. I do this at Junior Vet University. Is that's my one thing usually I teach is how to breathe, which is basically when I tell people, all you guys breathe in, take a big deep breath, and they go, and then they're sticking all this in. No. You want to give as much room out, like
it's like the opposite of what they should be. Yeah.
So you want to punch out your gut. You still want your diaphragm to go up, but you try to have the posture there already so it doesn't look like it. That is, and Sammy always was great at that because you could never see how much his abs were working because his posture was just so immaculate. So your posture is the most important thing to start when you're breathing. So you have your posture and you want to support it from the bottom, push up. And with P's, M's, and B's, it's about getting the air behind it. So I've talked to you about it, is we do it differently. But I like to make a, because you're trying to recreate. And if you add that, which is
what are you doing when you recreate the noise for the letter P? You're thumping your tongue from the top of your mouth to the bottom?
No, I'm putting it on the top of my mouth to where it's flush. So it's all the air is sealed off. Just a flat tongue on the top of the mouth, adding air behind it, and then trying to replicate the sound. And it's hard to describe replicating the sound because I've been doing it subconsciously since I was younger. But it goes like Peter, Peter, like Peter Michaels Jr. Peter, Peter. Peter Piper picked a peck versus Peter Titer tick the tick.
Right.
Peter.
Yeah, it's always the whole letter substitution thing. I
Alternated.
tried that for a while when I was practicing, and it just didn't convince me. And it's interesting. I heard Terry Fader talk about his technique, and he was the same way. He just found a way where he could bounce his tongue off of his front two top teeth, and that's how I do it. So when it's
I
like
call it
Peter Tether tickle tethers, you're like, yeah, you're
tickle.
bouncing it off that.
Look,
Yeah.
well, I
Or
find it
that
to
or
be
basketball too. It works for basketball as well.
basketball,
Yeah.
basketball.
Yeah.
And if you see that, it helps if you let the air build up for a little bit, but that's all comes from supporting down here. And
Yeah.
that's where those noises, that's where the great start of that is bringing it from the air from. And I don't want to talk to people like I know any of this stuff, but I just apply the singing techniques, and I want to make a video, and I probably will at some point, which is what ventriloquists can learn from birds, because birds are the one animal that has evolved to sing. And that if you watch a bird before they sing, diaphragm descends, waistline enlarges, and rib cage expands, and they push it out. But when you watch a parrot talk, they don't have lips. So I was like, how do they do this? So, and then I found out that it's flipped, where the trachea is versus the voice box. Our trachea is below the voice box. Their trachea is above the voice box, which gives you a little bit different resonance, but it's the same idea, which is
Right.
the bird creates a fake burp to make the B's and the P's, like like as
Right.
and it's the same technique that I'm doing in the front of my mouth, which is putting air behind a bubble. What I always say is I'm creating a bubble in my mouth and then I'm popping it.
Please. Yeah, I can see what you're talking about.
I'm just replicating what a parrot does, because I'm like, oh, it works for them. It clearly works for them, and they're able to create the best diction out of just a beak. So they, and I don't have anything against like really funny ventriloquists who have bad lip control, because like I love Otto and George, but for my routine, it's so easier for me to go up there and not have to think about lip control and have good lip control, then because then you lose, because I win when I go up there. I look good, the cockroach looks good, and my lips don't move. So I got 3 wins.
Do you ever feel like your lips are like just like up there like flapping, even though and then you like go back and you look at yourself and they're like not at all? Like, have you ever had that? Because like that, like if I'm nervous, like that'll happen. But like I've experienced that 1 or 2 times. I was curious if that's ever happened to you.
The saver line I have that I'm not going to say on here because it's inappropriate, but that saver line I do when I move my lips, right? So,
Yeah.
Jeff, maybe you should blah 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 blah.
Right.
And then it has a good tag and blah blah blah. So I've done that when I thought I moved my lips, but all the audience is like looking at him like, he didn't move his lips, and I didn't realize until afterwards. I'm like, oh, I didn't even move my lips, but I did my saver joke as if I moved my lips. So I've had that happen. I mean, I don't know how it's happened for you, but it's kind of like a paranoia thing where it's
it's
when you're about it. Because I don't know about you, but when I'm up there, the last thing I'm thinking about is my lip control. I'm just thinking about delivering the jokes, and the jokes themselves, I already know how to do it without moving my lips. I've done it enough shows. I know what the cockroach is doing. I know every little position on that joystick, on what expression it is on his eyes. So I'm just focusing on the jokes, making sure that I am acting and reacting, and then the puppet is doing the same thing to me, which is kind of, that's the other thing that people miss. They might react to their puppets, but then their puppets don't really react to them. And it's a two-way street.
It's very important.
Yeah, well, just watch yourself after you. It's so much easier to just watch yourself and write than to just fester and not know what you, because it is so hard to watch yourself, especially at the beginning, because you're so bad.
Did your writings for comedy clubs change from what you perceive, from viewing how people saw you as a comic. If that makes any sense. Like, you go in there, you do your thing, but then you kind of look back at your videos and you're like, oh, well, they, you can kind of see yourself up there. Has your writing changed since you're able to like watch yourself in that environment, or is it still the same type of comedy and style and everything, but just
my comedy's
tightened up?
definitely evolved, but I don't think it was completely based on, it wasn't comics. I don't think you should ever let other comedians tell you what you should do, because comedians and performers themselves only really know how to be themselves. So if they're going to give you advice, it's going to be teaching you how to be them. So just keep that in mind when you have a mentor, and you can be like, okay, well, do I really
That
want to be
applies to anything, not just comics.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But comics especially. Now it became, originally the show was for me, just to make me feel better. Oh, I'm good at this. I'm getting the laughs. But then like maybe even like 2.5 years in, it was like, oh, well, it's actually for them and this place. So my job is actually to make them laugh and have a good time and make sure that they buy drinks and pay and tip well. So, because it's a business. So once it turned into a business, that was when my comedy changed a bit, because it wasn't that like I had to change too much, but it was definitely like, okay, here's my priority now. Because I used to do things like just Andy Kaufman shit, I used to do this thing. It's very embarrassing, but I love it. Was I would bring a griddle, like a George Foreman grill, to the show, set it up on a table in the corner, ask for an audience participation, and I brought a stick of butter, 2 pieces of bread, and some cheese. And I'd have an audience member make me a grilled cheese while I did my routine.
Wow.
And then afterwards, I would have a grilled cheese to eat. Now, this thing is, of course, you can't do that with Corona anymore. But it was funny to me, but it's not. It's funny, or it'd be funny in like a YouTube video where like someone's like, "Oh my god, can you believe he's doing this?" Like the house is like, "Hey Jeff, we want to sell tickets. Like we want to sell drinks."
That's like the type of thing you do if you had a kid in the audience and he like wouldn't shut up. You're like, "Why don't you get up here and help me out?" Like give him a sticker. You're like, "We're gonna use that later. Just go in the corner." But
my old audience participation thing I used to do when an audience member wouldn't shut the F up. Because usually my favorite thing is when the comics ahead of me are all getting heckled, and then I go up there and I get to deal with it. Because I'm not afraid of sacrificing my set for the good of the show, you know? And so I used to do this thing where I'd go, all right, well, now it's time for audience participation. I take out my cards I keep in my suitcase, and I go, all right, who would we want to volunteer? Oh, you, sir, you seem to be a real interactor, I guess. Why don't you pick a card? So I'm gonna have you pick a card. You know your card? All right, now you keep your card right there. Sit there. I'm gonna go do comedy, and now you're gonna shut up, and then I could go into my routine, and I love that. And then just be like, oh, and it was also the 3 of clubs, and that was just for me, so that he would be like, oh, he also knows magic.
yeah. Meanwhile, it's like they're all the 3 of clubs, but you enjoyed the bit. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And that was my old little trick, and then I came up with more. But after that point, I do this thing now too, because I work at a comedy club.
Oh.
That's my favorite thing to do, which is when someone is not shutting up, and it's like, comics can deal with it and they enjoy the challenge, but in an actual set, like you're getting paid to do your material. What people don't realize is you're as I just described, joke equals a bit, 2 bits, 3 bits, maybe 4 bits equals a chunk. If you screw up, if you're interrupting during one of those jokes, it's going to screw up the next bit, and all those bits together in the chunk, it's going to make it hit less hard. And then you have to do all this math in your head of like, what am I going to cut
Of
out?
where
What am I
you
going
left
to
off.
to make this line of reasoning and this comedy work? So what I do is I'll go up behind them, because usually they're drunk. And this is when they're men. I can't do this to women. But I grab both of their shoulders from behind, and I whisper in their ear. I just go, "We're going to be quiet now." And it works.
Really?
Yes, because they go back into that kid mentality, because often the people who are speaking up are the ones who didn't get attention as a child. They didn't have a very good home life or whatever, and they probably got disciplined by people in school and stuff for being loud in school as well. So I'm reprimanding them like a teacher, and they feel the power over me. And like, even if they turn around to see that it's a scrawny white dude in heels, it still works. It's a weird, it's my favorite thing. We're going to be quiet now. It's scary. Like, just that. It's kind of scary. But I'll sacrifice myself for the goodness of a show, unlike certain comedians.
That's great. That's really neat to hear that perspective. Scott Bright commented, really enjoying this discussion. I think everyone on here is enjoying it. It's definitely a neat and different perspective from what we had on. Can you talk a little bit about doing the theme park? Because I always thought it was interesting, since you had been doing comedy clubs and then were asked to do the theme park. What was the did you have to write a bunch of stuff? Did you have stuff from previous shows that you had done? Oh, and before I mention that, I want to read a comment off by Stacy Michaels. She said, Pete would tell the audience, okay, on the count of 3, everyone repeat after me. Shut the F up. When there was a heckler. Yeah.
Oh my God, I
That's
love
great.
it. I love it. I was just telling a story about him the other day of just, have you ever been in the military? You don't know dick. I just love that man. Yeah, that's a great way to do it too, because what they don't realize is everyone around them hates them. Like, I've had to tell a heckler, like, look at the girl you're with. She's ashamed of you. She's ashamed. Look at her eyes, and it had to do that.
Yeah.
Now your question. Sorry, I that's the story
Theme
about me.
parks. What was it? What was it like getting
Oh,
the gig? And then did you have the material? Did you have to adjust? What was it? Were you scrambling? Were you?
So Gary Owen, thanks for he was really great. He recommended me to this magician who was booking out the theme park that year and the year before, whatever. And he also talked to you about it too, which was nice.
Yeah, they were looking for a ventriloquist with an act. So yeah, and they
I don't
also had
know
a
why.
theme at the time, which were bugs,
Bugs,
and so
which
that was
worked
the sell.
well for me because I
Yeah.
already had the bug puppet. And so, but I had a show, with the P-Winkle stuff, is I knew how to run like a puppet show. So like my birthday puppet show. So, I hate to say this, but I did the magic drawing board gimmick, and I did the mic mouth. But I did it the way Bob Rumbutt told me how to do it, which is the right way. So if anyone's listening, don't you dare hold up the mic mouth and do it like that, because they always pull away and it's very awkward. You give it to them, show them the little trigger, and say, when I tap on your shoulder, pull this trigger. It only went bad once in the 100+ shows I did at that theme park that summer. It was just one guy who had terrible coordination, and I could not. I felt bad for the woman he was with. Like, I was like, just why can't you do that? So it bothered me. But yeah, so I did it there, and I do marionettes, not to brag or anything.
Yeah.
But I of course, with Melchior marionettes, they taught me how to do marionettes and build them and perform them. And so my idea was, I was like, okay, so I got Julio the cockroach, and I'll do my, 7 minutes. I really had 5 minutes of clean material with him, if that. But then I also add the whole ventriloquist thing in, because I have to tell kids what ventriloquism is, because they don't understand that I'm doing it the whole time. So I have to explain that at the beginning. And I do it through, it's very Jay Johnson-y in the way I did it. It wasn't the Jay Johnson thing, but it was very much Julio was like, you do this as a job, like, that whole thing. But,
Yeah.
and then I would bring in, I had it all paced out, and I knew I could always end on marionettes, because I knew some days I was going to be performing in front of 2 people, and some days I was going to be performing in front of like 130, 150 people. So it was like, okay, I got to have something that I can always fall back on. So the marionettes are great because they always do the same thing to music, and it's loud, and then boom, boom, do my little outro, blah, blah, blah. So that's what I did. And I built these 3 dancing, singing cockroaches for the show at the park, because I was like, it's the bug theme, and they wanted 75% of it, or no, not 75, like 35% of it to be bug themed, with like that year's theme. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. And so I had to write some stuff, and I found that, like, I didn't have any good videos of me performing my act, especially any kids routine anywhere, because I wasn't getting booked to do a kids bug show anywhere. I had my kids birthday party show, which did not involve Julio, because Julio was my comedy club puppet. And then and so it was like a week. The magician messaged me. He's like, okay, when's your next show? Film it, and however it goes, send it to me. And I go, okay. So I was doing this thing called the Moose Lodge in just the middle of nowhere, Indiana, and it's a biker bar with these people called the Tribe, and it's this like.
Is it like, what, did they even have a stage, or is it more like just like you're asked to perform for a bunch of bikers type thing, and you're like in the corner?
Well, it was set up it was like set up like a gala kind of thing. It wasn't a raised stage, but a big open area with the lights, and then all these people. And it was probably like a 300 seating room. Like, it was a lot of people in there.
Yeah.
Maybe more, but I bombed for probably like 4 minutes at the beginning, because they didn't want to see the little, sissy boy ventriloquist do his thing, and I didn't get them to like me quickly. But I had 45 minutes to do, so I had more than 40 minutes left, and I was like, well, he's gonna see this, I'm gonna go. So I did it, and I kept going, and I got the crowd on my side to the point where they were chanting at the end, and I killed so hard by the time Julio came out. It wasn't even like, because he was the tail end of it. So I had done the mic mouth with someone named Wingnut. That was his name. Everyone there knew who Wingnut was.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, come up here, Wingnut. Wingnut was drunk, and Wingnut started
classic
by, like,
Wingnut.
Yeah, he like grabbed my shoulders, and I was like, all right, Wingnut, we're getting a little too close too quick. All right. I just turned 18. All right. And so it was crazy. And then once I brought the magic drawing board out, I did a whole callback to Wingnut, because I drew Wingnut on the magic drawing board. And Wingnut talked to Wingnut. And by the time Julio the cockroach got out there, I did like, I probably did like 6 clean jokes.
Yeah.
And then just went straight into my dirty club material. And so I sent him that whole video, and he hired me at the theme park. And I was like, what? And he was like, it was because you took what seemed like the hardest room possible, which was a room full of talking people who were no longer interested, and then brought them together. And it was the only reason why I got that gig. And then once I was working out there, doing 3 shows a day, if you get a chance to do more than 1 show a day, do it, because you learn more if you do more than 1 in a day. Because you do that one, you're fresh, and you're going through, you're like, oh, I could do this, I could do this, could do that. And then that show, as much as I didn't like it, because I don't really like kids shows, it was polished by the end of that whole thing. It was a polished show, and I had 1 joke that I loved, which was just for me, which we had a giant, Aaron, the magician who set everything up. He had made the set have like a giant blow up praying mantis and a giant blow up flower on one side. And the blow up flower was right where I take my stand as I move it off the stage when it's time to bring out the marionettes. So I'd move it off the stage, and then I'd do this thing where I got caught in the flower, and I'm going like this. And then I come back around, I'm like, oh, I think I just pollinated that flower. And that was the joke for me. And so it kept me going throughout the days. And it's good to learn how to do a show in front of, 2 people. I bring them in, make it an interactive thing. And then if it's like 4 people, you got to do your full show. Wow. It's like, and I'm like, oh, I have to do this in front of 4 people, which is just 2 families. And by families, I mean a mom and their kid. And I saw a lot of the stuff where I hated these dads who were always on their phone. They'd be on their phone, and I would see their kid be just enamored and enthralled in like the magic of seeing this art form for the first time. And they're on their phone, like completely missing out on their kid's life. And I know later on they would probably regret that when they get older and be like, oh, I missed out on my kid's life. So what I would do is I'd always make a mental note about that. And I'd always bring them up to do the mic mouth. So I'd go, all right, can I have a volunteer? Oh, sir, you with your phone. And then I'd bring him up and I'd take his phone and put it on my stand, do the routine. And at the end I'd go, and as a consolation prize, here's your phone.
Great. Do you think he would ever do a theme park again or something like that?
I really love that little podunk park that I performed at. I also met someone who's now like my best friend, Denny, who is an artist who does all the art there. And the man, I talk to him every day. I love that man. And I'd love to perform there again. And I plan on pitching them something next summer, not this summer, of course, but next summer. I'm going to do a whole little Jungle Jeff thing because nice. I know it's cute. But I'm good at teaching. I'm very much into animals, as you probably know. Not a lot of people know, but I'm a turtle daddy, which means I have 2 baby turtles. And I say babies, but they really aren't anymore. They're like 3 years old, but I raised them from being hatchlings. And then I have a tortoise. Wow. And they are like my kids. And I know all about my chelonians and my terrapins and, the Latin names for turtle. So I'm so interested in that stuff. So I can actually write funny material about it because I want to educate. So, talk about, a niche and a habitat and all that stuff that they need to learn for the curriculum of where I was performing, which is Georgia, Florida area. And then also entertaining. And I've always found that like, it's why I don't like Christian ventriloquism at all, is because kids will listen to a puppet and they believe a puppet and it keeps their attention. And it's so easy to disseminate ideas through a puppet, and it's nothing against Christian ventriloquism. It's just, I personally don't believe in putting views of like something that in someone like it, that could be concerned as indoctrination, because I feel like when they grow up, they'll make their own choice and it'll probably, because I found that if I wasn't forced into a religion as much, I probably wouldn't have had my slight waiver from religion for a short period of time, because you just get forced into it. And I really hate that. So I with educational shows, I like it because I can use that for good. That same method of being like, oh, I'm giving information that now you're going to go back to school and it's going to help you on your test, because and that's really fun for me. And I love animals and anything to talk about extinction, and I love it. And our art form was always thought to go extinct, but look at us.
Yeah, look at us.
I know.
I mean, you're killing at the clubs, and I'm killing at the retirement homes. So,
dude, yeah, literally. Yeah. You come in there with a vial of Corona.
It's not difficult to kill at a retirement facility, because they're halfway there already. But in wrapping up, I have one question for you, and this is a neat question because it allows you to see kind of where each performer is at. What do you want to see from future ventriloquists, or just the art form in general, in the future of it?
I don't want to see future ventriloquists.
No, in all honesty.
No, in honesty.
And what's funny is people outside of ventriloquism are like, yeah, it's a dying art, and like meanwhile, like if you like look at all the ventriloquists today, it's clearly not. But what do you like? Future of ventriloquism, you know,
When
it's
they
like,
say it's a dying art, that's just how the people feel who are watching it. They
yeah,
feel like they're dying. No, I would say that I want to see originality and a focus on character, because
okay,
when I was younger, and you were too, you had an obsession about the puppets for a minute, and we all go through that phase where we're like, I want puppets, I want to collect puppets, and I see this with adults all the time. But if you got keep buying and selling puppets and not focusing on a character, like just focus on one character, and once you
yeah,
have one character down and have one good act, add another one. But a carousel of puppets that don't go anywhere, I don't see any value in that. So I want someone who is original and funny and who's being themselves. That's really what it is. I don't
yeah,
um I and I support all young ventriloquists, because I had that support as a kid, and that's my responsibility and your responsibility at the ventriloquist convention, to make those kids feel welcome and feel the way we felt. Now, does that mean that that I enjoy, every young I don't. But do we enjoy ventriloquism, seeing potential? Yes. And I always see the most originality from the youngsters. And I just don't want to see more of the old. I think it's crazy that a lot of people's routines
mhm.
still look 100 years old. I mean, they did it 100 years old, and I don't mean
Yeah,
like
it's like if you're gonna do a cheeky, like have like the stereotypical like cute little boy puppet, like turn it into something like a cockroach. At least change it up, you know? It's like I don't
and
people.
I say when you do a ventriloquist show, I think you should really throw a curveball and bring an old man puppet, just
Yeah.
to really surprise them.
Well, in my
Uh,
defense, I do age 50 and up, and that kills, and he's not a curmudgeon, so there. Like how
okay.
every other
Well,
one
you know what?
is. So that's
Yeah,
my
honestly, I don't mean I love Orson. He's a great puppet. So I'm gonna uh but I'm
it's
sorry. We
fine.
have to
It's
do.
fine.
Well, people on the online, they probably think that we're actually mean to each other. If you see each other we're in each other's comment sections on Instagram, we
Yeah,
look like we are sworn enemies.
it's vicious, but it's fun. So
That's how we show love in
yeah.
our own way. So but yeah, the 100-year-old acts are crazy, and I'm not mentioning like I feel like some people do it really well as like a time capsule,
Hmm.
and people who know
Sure.
that they're doing a time capsule and go, no, this is what I'm doing. I'm doing a representation of what the art form has been, and giving them. So like I would say David Pendleton is one of my favorites when it comes to a cheeky boy doing a routine. A lot of his stuff is just the mayor material, but the
Yeah.
audience hasn't seen it before, so it's a experience for
But
them.
and it's done classically and professionally, and it's polished,
Classic,
and it's just
yeah,
it's perfect. It's like down to the T, yeah. And versus,
exactly.
you got some guy up there with like his like Jerry Mahoney knockoff or whatever, and he does like the occasional like church show, and he's also on like Bob's general open mic, and shout out to Bob Rumba for emceeing that, and
I
for
love Bob.
all the laughs from that. We talked about that the other night too, but and
I
sometimes it's really funny too, because it's not supposed to be, or because it's not funny at all.
see. That's the problem. I also love seeing really bad ventriloquists or really bad
Yeah.
comics. I get so much joy from it, and I don't know if that's mean or terrible, but I do. Um, but a great example of the whole 100-year-old ventriloquist acting is, all I wanted when I was younger was a McElroy. I was like, I
Mhm.
want a McElroy,
Yeah.
because I had this built up thing as if that was going to be my thing, like I was going to have a McElroy puppet. And I spent all this time learning how to build a McElroy dummy from scratch, like a replica that's not, doesn't live up to it, but has all the movements, has the look, has the feel, the cradle, and the whole jazz. And I finished it, and I went, what am I going to do with this? And there's nothing to do with it. because
Yeah.
it's just it's just a cheeky boy dummy on crack or on steroids, just something that gives it that, like, all the movements, yay.
Hey, you've got all the movements, but what's the character? What's the relationship? What's
Where's the funny there?
Yeah.
Where are you gonna go from there? And I did, and it's crazy because you know my surfer dude made by Scott Bright,
Mhm.
so much better dummy. Even though it's like now I can barely fit my hand in it because he made it for me when I was like 10.
Right.
But that dummy is still way better than a McElroy dummy for me in a show. Like, I love a McElroy dummy as like a showpiece, all that,
Yeah.
all the good parts about it. And but but as a performance tool, a dummy that's a character
Mhm.
goes so much farther. Something that is, I say, cartoony. I like cartoony, and it's where I lean. But originality is what you want, and I would want to see people get away from the phase of like collecting puppets, as
Mhm.
if that makes you a ventriloquist or makes you have a routine or some kind of talent, versus actually like collecting a character or two characters and developing them
Yeah.
to a point where you're funny and you're good, and you're not really you know you don't have
Mhm.
to rely on more puppets. I just, and it's terrible because we're, especially you, because I don't build too many puppets for other people,
Yeah,
if I choose to,
it's
but for you,
difficult.
you're doing it, so
Yeah.
you can't be like, no, don't buy my stuff, work on what you have. You're like, I'll take the cash, but
Well, and then there's also the fact that it's like you have to build kind of what, everyone wants you to build like an old man puppet. So they want to see that at your table. And so I do a few of those because I have a few dealers tables. But and then I build like really wacky stuff. I built like a creature of the Black Lagoon and some other stuff. And you have to get, people, they're not as creative, or maybe they're just not as open to the idea. So people like Rumba give other people ideas, and I've even thinking about like making just what I want to build, and then writing a little few lines on ideas for it, and then attaching that to the puppet, so people can go, oh, okay, so you could do that. Because I build in a cartoony style, and it confuses people on like what you can do with the puppet, because it's not what they've seen before. And yeah.
you are one of the best at that right now. I don't know any other soft puppet builders in the ventriloquist community who have that approach to character, because every one of your puppets, um, even if it's one of the cliche old men that everyone wants, it's like a character, and it's
Oh,
developed.
thank you.
And I really got annoyed at the convention seeing people buy like old man puppets and just classic stuff that
Mhm.
everyone else has, and walking by a puppet like the creature from a Black Lagoon, which is,
Yeah.
from your first table, one of my favorite puppets on your first table, because I immediately thought, oh, that's a character.
Yeah.
There's a routine there, and I look at that as the number one thing. It's like, make sure that works as a tool, because it
Yeah.
has to
Make
be
sure
a
it's
character.
comfortable. Yeah.
Which, again, I
And
don't
ma-
have to talk about that much. But guys, you should try out one of Landon's mouth grips next
I
time you're
got
at convention.
Yeah,
It
I've got some
is.
special stuff in
It's like
there.
it's the best. It's like a baseball glove. It's just like perfect. Okay. Anyway, not gonna keep talking about it too much, but because I really got to tear you down in a minute. But
Yeah. Gotta even yourself out. Yeah.
no, but that character that you choose is, you choose a character,
Yeah.
and I don't know why that's not the usual approach.
Hmm.
I think mostly it's the same reason why I build original stuff, but everyone who wants me to build something wants me to build a McElroy replica, because I can make something that looks like a McElroy and has the movements,
Right.
because I learned how to sculpt like them and I learned how to do that. But when I sit there, it's not artistically fulfilling, and I'm not making a character. I'm making someone else's work,
Sure.
and trying to. I got permission from the family to do it, so like
Yeah.
it's not like a moral issue, but it definitely is an issue in my head, because it's not something. I also know it's not something really of value,
Hmm.
and I'm just putting, I'm reflecting someone else's work into the world, and it's the same reason why, like, I replicas of anything are, they're cool. I just don't see the point. I mean, most of them are collectors anyway, and the ones who say they're ventriloquist are really more collectors than ventriloquists anyway. So
Yeah.
So you never know with selling puppets.
Well, I mean,
I
and
want
you don't know how many peanut knockoffs I've seen, too. You know, I mean, and I guess it's, I mean, you know, at least it's not like another hard figure boy puppet, but you know, you can have it be like a dog or something. I mean, it's that just
okay,
taking that.
Landon, but mine's blue. Okay.
Mine's got a blue nose. I mean, it's yeah. I don't know, but
uh, but no, I agree, and I want to ask you a question on that. Is when you build a puppet, do you get worried about your expectation of character in the way of like you've developed this character more than they even do, and then they go up on stage and then you're like you didn't use anything you could have, and or you sell them a puppet and you go, or you they buy a puppet and you have to just completely swallow your pride as an artist and go, wait, you don't want a character, okay, and then just have to do that.
yeah, I bet. Here's a fun thing. I built this cool like old man sorcerer. The first time I had a real like I think the first and like last time I did a convention, which was a few years back, and he was a really cool puppet. I think one of my favorite old man character. I kind of did like you could redress him if you wanted to, but he was really cool, and he had like feet and everything too, so you could like see his toenails and all that. And he didn't sell at all at the convention. But he was a really beautiful character, and I thought he was one of my best puppets I had ever built. Some guy in Germany ends up buying him, and I shipped the old man puppet to him. He gets it. He texts me. He goes, I had the puppet arrive today. Um, it's a what did he say? He's like, it's a it's a beautiful old lady or something along those lines. And I just went to the point where I'm like, you know what, that's fine. You know what, he can use it for what he wants to. It had horseshoe hair, you know, the horse that was puffy, so I get, you know, but yeah, the problem, you know, when I build a puppet is because I invest so much time and detail and everything that I'm like, oh, you know, you could use it for this and this and this um and I offer that up to people too for like ideas, um, but I don't, you know, you reach a point where you know you can only focus on what you do, and that's all that really matters. And I actually haven't been building a lot for the general public lately. I used to build and just like post stuff, but I've been a lot more um, kind of reserved lately and just taking
I
orders.
think I want to ask you that because I know you've been asking me a lot of questions. I know it's supposed to be an interview and all that, but I have to ask you because it interests me is that uh, now we've both gotten to the point, and I got it a few years ago, but it's become more now, okay, yeah, on
Uh
a
huh.
different level, that we don't see a reason that we have to share the work we make with everybody. Like we don't need the approval. Like
Right.
I don't ever want to post anything I'm working on or even stuff that I finish. I have a folder of it on my computer of the stuff that I built for other people, but
Yeah.
I really don't, I'm not looking for the approval. I don't want the approval of other people. I focus on the work and it becomes something that you know, so you got to that point. How did you get to that point? And how has it changed, or how did your mentality change, and how did it get there?
Well, it was like I don't know. I guess it was more the thing where when I had my table at convention, I built a bunch of different puppets, and they were all like when the way you pattern a head, you know, a lot of people do it where they start with the same base, and I didn't do that. Every head was different. Everything was a different size and everything. I spent so much time on it, and people wouldn't buy them because of the way that they were either too big because I thought bigger puppets were better because you could see them further, but people weren't really ready for that, and it. And people had a lot of the people that that took interest had like these giant like arms, and so they didn't fit them, so it was I put more of an emphasis on artistic style, and that when in reality people really they no one really cares about it as much as the builder does. So you can build something that's fine and that's neat, and people will buy it for the same price. But you sacrifice your artistic. I mean, it's like, do I want like a bunch of puppets or do I want like 5 that are like really cool? That's been something that I've been thinking about lately in building for if we have convention this year or rolling that to next year. So yeah, I don't even remember what your question was. Something about not wanting to share your work. Yeah,
seeking the approval of everyone else, because I see
yeah.
people that they often they act as though that they're a big shot on online, like
Hmm.
they're posting stuff as if we all care. But
Yeah,
like,
I've got a group of friends that I share stuff with and that type of thing, and they're like they know what they're talking about, and I'll go to them for advice too, so I'll send them stuff and this and that. Bob, I've built a number of puppets for, and he's probably been the biggest person to see me improve throughout because he is like one of my original puppets, and I had him send me back the dog that I built for him so I could tear out the mouth plate and then redo it because I found a better way to do it, and he like really loves it because it fits his hand better and you can puppeteer it, but a lot easier. But I don't know. I think when you listen to everyone else and you crave that validation, it's like it's kind of crippling for like artistics and from an artistic standpoint. So you just gotta kind of like build what you build and then just put it out there and not really be worried about what other people think. And if they don't like it, then they don't. No one's they don't have to buy it. But
yeah,
I don't know.
but I love that that's what you do, because I came to that point too of like I just don't care anymore about that.
Yeah.
In fact, I get a lot of people who, when I share stuff, they're like wanting me to build stuff, and I am the most not timely person in the world
Hmm.
about building. Like, because it takes me forever to like figure out what I want to do, and then I just I don't the I put so much into it that it takes me so much time and effort, and I really want to work on my own stuff. I don't want more people asking me to do
Right.
things,
Well, and then I'm sure that
unless
you've
they have
had it
really
where
good ideas.
I'm sure
You
you've
know,
had circumstances too where people will ask you to build things that either you're not comfortable with building or you're just it's like it doesn't help improve it doesn't help build on your skill, and it's just kind of you might do it for the money or you might just have to decline it because it's just like one of those things, and so
well, I
it's
still build the McElroy replica stuff because it does make me money. And if it, not
right.
this convention, but probably not this convention, knowing what's happening, but next convention, I will have some of that stuff at a table. And,
Mhm.
people will be able to buy it just because I need, it's good to be able to go, oh, well, I just got done with that. That pays rent for like,
But
couple
something
months.
I'd like to mention is if you're gonna hire someone to build you a puppet, give them like and you have ideas, like talk to them and kind of create an idea with them. Um, but like let them do their style on it and let them be able to like um offer ideas and be open to things because usually they know best in being the builder and in allowing them freedom, it's gonna work out best for you. Bob once said to me, he's like, Bob Rumba, he said, everyone always asks me how I have so many amazing and cool puppets, and I tell them that I just let the builders do what they want to do. So there
That
it is.
is such a great piece of advice.
Yeah.
And it's not surprising that came from Bob, because a lot of this advice seems to come from Bob
Yeah.
and his newly old mentality.
Look at
But
that full circle right there.
yeah, I know, callbacks. I learned it from someone. Uh, so I gotta say that letting someone do what they're best at tends to be get you the better product. And if you trust the person you're letting build for you, trust them. Let them create as much as you can, but don't hold back ideas and everything. But
Yeah.
I hate I hate the idea, for me just personally, because I have a trouble when I build original stuff to not build it in my style
Hmm.
of that. Then there's a puppet in my style that someone's performing with, and they have a chance to sell that. Or maybe they're the problem and I see the show and I go, ooh,
Right.
the best part of that routine was the puppet. And that's
Yeah.
not okay. and it hurts me, and because it hurts me, like, that's my work, and I don't like to see it used that way. So again, another reason why, like, I don't really like building for people, but I do it for money.
Right.
So I think both of us, when we hear someone with like a really good idea or something
Mm-hmm.
with potential, when I hear someone who has a character idea, which is
Oh,
almost never,
but
but if they,
I talk to Bob on a
sorry,
regular
go ahead.
basis. I talk to Rumba on a regular basis, and since he watches cartoons, he's got all these hilarious ideas and like movements and stuff and puppets and like, oh, he's like, if you had a whatever and you dressed it as this and this and this, and it's like, oh my god, that would be such a neat piece on my table and like for my website, and I could see myself, like I could see the angle that Bob would perform with it or I would, but like convincing someone that they could, it's like you reach a point where some people just don't have the creative determination to like take that on, so they have to get out like uh their Milton Berle jokes or whatever, their joke books, and they have to do their old man jokes and their mayor stuff. We're not saying there's anything wrong with that, but it goes
I
back to the
like
whole thing on,
girls, I gather.
huh?
I mean, the girls I gather that joke.
Yeah,
They all these old jokes. They're so deadening to my soul.
yeah,
Um, and it's so easy. It's so much easier for me to do my own material than read from joke books and do those kind of joke stuff. And I can see how daunting it would be to start from scratch with writing a routine or writing something and thinking that that's where your starting point should be. Because I always say it's so, and Sammy said this too, and I watched this documentary about the Muppet guys talking, and they all said the same
yeah.
thing, which is you start with the character and then think about what this character does, what their life is like, what they would do in certain different situations. What are they doing when you're not here? What are the hobbies that they have outside of this? What what's their favorite food? What just if they had a favorite movie, what would it be? All these just little things, and you come up with this character. And once you know all the character, it's easier to write all that stuff in because you can know all these facts about them, and then all of a sudden introduce that in the routine, or it just builds off of the mentality of the character itself. So much easier to start with the character and move with material from the character than start
Or
by just
having the puppet
writing.
even built after the character's fleshed out. Like
Yeah.
if you can write for the puppet and you can imagine like yourself with the puppet and like see that kind of chemistry, then and then you can look up puppet builders and whatever and see what style would fit the puppet. But I mean, yeah,
And
it's
I mentioned the
it
trash bag
sounds like
build.
such a simple thing, but it's
I
you buy
wish
a
I
puppet
had.
and then you're like, what am I gonna do with this? And really you're like trying to like put all this effort into like writing for this puppet that you don't have a character for. And you just get it because it's cool. Collecting is one thing where it's a cool art piece, which people have bought my stuff for as an art piece.
Most of my stuff people buy as an art piece because all the
But
macro, no one's
but
performing.
yeah. Um,
But
Bob, what is it? Bob Rumba said, Jeff Goltz, you do the best you can, but your focus gets split.
wait, what does that mean?
I think he means like you've got like ADHD, like you can't focus on like one thing at a time.
Well, that's a fact. But I thought he
Yeah.
was talking about my eyes because I'm like looking at you.
No, no,
And
I think he was referring to the fly. I don't know. Um,
oh, yes, I am sorry about that. But hey, I'm doing that as a gift. And I do have some things sitting over there. And Landon and I talked about it. That
I've got some
he
ideas. I'll shoot you some ideas too.
okay. Sorry, that's a
Awesome.
fly puppet, guys. Just inside baseball. Just we're just the cool ones. Just
He does.
building
He builds.
puppets.
Jeff Goltz builds primarily bug puppets. He's working on a cricket for me. Um, so there you go.
Yeah, and he's a British cricket, and then after that, I'm gonna make you a Scottish praying mantis, right?
See right there. It's important to get the character and to have the
Yeah.
character down,
Yeah.
just like Jeff just said. So um,
Well, but that I just want to come back to the trash bag builds real quick because it's there's nothing wrong with you building a little puppet or modifying another puppet to
yeah,
use to practice for that character because
sure.
when I was younger and I couldn't build puppets, the investment of a puppet, as I've told this story in this live stream already, but like investing on that puppet from Scott Bright was a huge investment to me. It was a huge thing. And I
Sure.
came up with the character idea, which was simple: a surfer who couldn't swim. But
Mm.
it's a starting point, and to have that as a starting
I
point
love
is
the
so much.
idea of like a failed character. Like that's always like, I just think that's so fun. Like
Yeah.
I've got stuff that's like that too, where they're like they're this, but they're failed at it or whatever. Because
Yeah.
it's
Well,
an easy like go to create a conflict. You're this, not really. But
yeah,
I
I
love doing
always
it.
like it when they still think they are, like, with confidence, and that's what I always loved about
Yeah, yeah, of
Julio
course.
Rodrigo. Um,
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, there's nothing wrong with just picking up a puppet and editing it, and then investing on the character later on, because you're gonna
Mhm.
end up with a way better routine if you just focus on character.
So do you think you'll be at like are you so will you ever have the type of show where you have multiple characters, or are you going to be more Otto and George where you've got you and Julio?
In the comedy clubs, it's so much easier right now, and
Hmm.
probably for even just doing feature work
Yeah.
up to that point, because headlining stuff, I want more than one puppet, but feature stuff, it's so much easier to just come in with my Julio suitcase, go to the dressing room, set him up, tune him, because I got to tune him before every show like a instrument,
Yeah.
and so then go up on stage with that puppet and put it in the suitcase, not have to deal with other puppets staging with different things and such. It's so much easier, and especially you work so hard for the audience to believe one character and then like them, and it's
Yeah.
so dumb. It's so dumb for me personally in my routine. I mean, I'm not saying other people, because I don't know how other people work. I only know how I work. It's that I don't. It's so dumb to put him away and then just be like, hey, I know I worked on that whole thing, but now let me try to get you to like something else now.
Right.
I can't. It doesn't work like that for me as quickly. But I told you about, or I alluded to it earlier. I have Lady
Mhm.
Pasquella Palazon, who is a drag opera singer, who will be in my routine at some point, and she's a real tart,
Yeah.
and I have, the Dodo Bird, which could be my kid shows. I've used him in a comedy club, made him a conspiracy theorist, which has
Oh,
been
really?
crazy.
Cool.
Yeah. I'm not gonna do any of the jokes, but there are a few that I liked.
Okay.
But yeah, so I will do other ones, but I, poopy doopy weather pants and such.
Mm.
But there.
Stacy Michaels commented, "Hey Jeff, dot dot dot. It's Pete. I stopped by to say, are you still talking?" And then on kind of wrapping up, is there anything that you feel like you should share with our audience? Maybe those that are new to ventriloquism of all ages, or just kind of starting in comedy clubs, or anything that maybe you feel like you haven't shared yet.
Okay, I'm pulling this out of my ass, but I'm gonna just say it because it's something I believe, that
Okay.
I hear a lot of people telling me this stuff where it's like, "Hey man, I'm thinking about doing ventriloquism, or I'm thinking about doing comedy," and I'm like, "So what? So what? Dude. Sometimes I think about being an astronaut. Okay,
Mm.
sometimes I think about being a good reader, but I'm not those things. And if you want to be those things, be it. So the only way you can be a ventriloquist, or only way you can be a comic, is going out and doing it. And that means you got to fail to get better. That's why I think that, and you laughed at it and you thought I was lying when I was talking on the phone with you, but why I think skateboarding kids, that's a good thing. When kids skateboard, leave them alone, let them skateboard, or any kind of physical activity like gymnastics or whatever, where you have to actually fail with pain to get better. How many times you hurt yourself to get better, and that's physical pain. And then if you're doing something like comedy, it makes it way easier, because failing isn't physical pain, it's
Right.
just a mental and emotional pain, because you have to fail to get better. So if you're thinking about doing something, or you want to do it, just do it. Because
Yeah.
I'm so happy that I started sneaking into comedy clubs at 16. Because if I had to start going in now, that would be so brutal, man. That would be so brutal. It was brutal then, but it's way easier when you're 16 and you can go, hey guys, I'm 16. So
right. Yeah, you got that crutch. So I could do that now and say I'm 13. So there you go.
Well, even then I'd be like, that's still older than most of your fans on TikTok. So
yeah.
He's got little baby fans on TikTok. It's
at least I have fans. You know, I'll take what I can get.
Yeah.
Jeff, how can people find you? Do you have a website? Are you on Facebook? Are you on
I always just say send smoke signals, you know, just talk to any Slovenian man, just say just tap on his knee 3 times and then whisper swordfish in his ear and it'll get back to me. So
all right.
No, but you can at Jeff Goltz on Instagram if you want to follow me. I post some good.
Are you on Twitter at all?
No, I posted on Twitter once, and my first joke on Twitter would if I had a show right now would be canceled. So I deleted it. I deleted that. But because I just thought it was a fun place to post jokes, and I would post jokes there. But turns out doesn't work. It's no longer a place for jokes. But no, I don't have a Twitter. Facebook, you can follow me. And I share on my page a lot of gigs that I do on Facebook, just any of the kind of stuff where I need to fill seats. But for the most part, it's just if you come out in Indianapolis to any of like the mics or anything, you'll probably see me, unfortunately, for the better or the worse. But YouTube channel, Jeff Goltz. I'm going to be starting to post there soon. And I've said that for years, but I have some ideas and things I've been working on.
This will be on my YouTube account, so I'll tag it all up.
Okay.
And link to yours.
Be on your YouTube account?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a shame.
Why is that?
I just think that Landon Harvey, just Landon venting, it's just not good for my brand.
Oh, well, you can't say that when you don't have a brand yet. So that's cute.
Do you
Jeff
sell
Goltz,
merch?
No, but I'm gonna because my TikTok following is asking me to. So a bunch of yeah. And so a bunch of shady folks retirement home sweatshirts are coming out soon. So be ready for that.
Is that from your act, Shady Folks?
That's from my act, and it's a Mervin reference, and it's gonna be really great. I'll send you the proof. It's pretty funny. But Jeff Goltz, thank you so much for
Landon's t-shirts.
Go buy my sweatshirts. I need the money. Jeff Goltz, thank you so much for taking time out of your evening for us to pick your brain, and we can't wait to see how far you go in your career.
Well, thank you, Landon. I can't.
You're welcome.
See how far you.
I had to write that out. I had to practice it because I laughed the first time I said it. So.
Oh yeah. I'm impressed.
Yeah, and I'll expect a call from my lawyer because purple's mine now. So that's fine.
Ooh.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jeff Goltz, comedian, Bo Burnham with a puppet, and much more. You can find him at Jeff Goltz on Instagram and follow him for a good time. Thank you so much for being part of this, Jeff Goltz, and I hope to talk to you soon.
Same.
All right, adios, guys. Thanks for tuning in.